see. Should I choose a motorboat, hovercraft, or turbo ski?
I bet that's setting up a really inappropriate joke for next week. I don't know. It's just a hunch. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Nick Prol. I just drank the last of my ale there.
I didn't know. I thought we were ending the show. I thought that was Enrique the Chupacabra coming in to say "K Rico."
I went right down the wrong tube. No, but yeah, I still got my lederhosen and my ale, and I'm camping out for this 4-parter.
All
here.
right. You know, everybody thinks, the end tag of every conversation with the slurping noise. Everybody thinks that's a bong hit, and it's not. It's a chupacabra drinking blood from a manila folder through a straw, and I don't know how that could not be more
simpler
clear.
can we make it? Yeah, come on.
But the problem is nobody watched Elvis and Slick Monty, so they've never seen it in motion, or TED Talks. TED Talks also showed it in motion. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. Part 2 of our Donkey Kong Country 3 Spotlight.
Yeah.
And this week, I stopped masturbating into the microphone and actually talk about the real game, not my twee little experiences as a 12 or 13-year-old.
No more talks about how your cousin would sing that song and
about pushing his poo. Yeah. No, believe it or not, that's actually been an earworm in my own head throughout the week ever since I dredged it up from my memory bank. So thanks, Hyle.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Thanks.
Which would be fine if I wasn't mostly diuretic this week. So it's
like a little nid crawled in there and put it in your brain.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. Do they cause massive fecal emergencies? Because if they do, then yeah, I've got a few nids in there.
We might find out this episode.
Yeah, well, we've got to answer some questions about nid that we did not answer last week with Karakong's call. She wanted to know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, there's some. I don't know if you know there's some more context on that. I actually answered it before she even asked it.
Oh yeah, on the DK Vine forum. I thought it seemed like a familiar question. But the reason we didn't broach it or interject after the call was, we're saving it for this week. So here,
maybe I can read some of my posts I made later.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. You know, why do more work than we have to? Let's just rely on our past laurels and get to the end of this episode in one piece. So this week, Nick, we're talking about all the juicy bits of Donkey Kong Country 3 that DK Vine nerds like us savor. Basically, we're talking the characters, the plot, the setting. We're also going to be discussing basically the people responsible for all of this. And we're going to be getting into how Donkey Kong Country 3 was not made by the original team who made Country 1 and 2. And it's something a lot of people don't realize. And we're going to be getting into that, and we're going to be kind of addressing not whether Donkey Kong Country 3 is a good game or not, because I've already come down on the side of, yes, it's a good game. But we're going to be starting to get into this fundamental debate of whether it holds up to the first two, whether it's as good, or because it's developed by Donkey Kong Country virgins, it kind of faltered a bit. In the sack, obviously.
And we may or may not differ on some of our opinions there, which should
right. And this is something that's also going to be addressed in the next 2 episodes when we actually get world to world, level to level, into the nitty gritty or the
gameplay,
nitty gritty spider jokes. But until then, this will have to hold you over. But that we'll save that for the end of the episode. We got a lot of show to get to. Let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
So, when discussing the plot of Donkey Kong Country 3, which we brought up a little bit last week, but mostly just how Nintendo Power presented the plot to young Hyle, and I guess how the plot materialized to Nick when you first discovered that Country 3 existed. Yeah. We're actually going to be getting into like the actual story right now. And instead of reading the instruction booklet, which, whatever. I thought it'd be a lot more...
It's what we normally do.
I thought it'd be a lot more interesting and substantive to actually go to the Internet Archives, moving soon to Canada because they fear Donald Trump's presidency. And that's a real news story this week. We're looking into the Wayback Machine and going to Rare, what Rare's website was known as back in the late 90s, early aughts. And we're going to be reading the long prose Lee Loveday story for Donkey Kong Country 3. This is what he wrote for the site, and it's way longer than the actual instruction booklet, which there's some debate about who actually wrote the instruction booklet version, because we know Dan Osen wrote the manual for Donkey Kong Country. And, we always assumed it was Lee Loveday who wrote those, but he took over at a certain point. But we know these are the words of Lee. So we're going to be reading this, and then we're going to be discussing it like a book club, and really getting into the literary themes. And
I was reading the instruction manual story the other day, and I had a few things popped out I wanted to ask you about, but maybe this will flesh it out more.
We'll compare notes because I don't think they're actually compatible. And I think the beauty of this not being compatible with the Super Nintendo instruction booklet version means we can kind of pick and choose the continuity that is most preferable to the way we understand the Donkey Kong universe and the Rare Archipelago. So,
works for me.
Dramatic reading. Nick, I'll let you do some of this, but I'll start.
All right. Go for it.
All right. And then, keep in mind, this was found on Rare's website back in the day, written by Lee Loveday. So this should be good. I haven't read this in years, by the way. So Dixie woke up, stretched herself from head to toe, and gazed at the cheery autumn sunshine. So first of all, I just wanted to point out, this game's taking place in real time. It was released in autumn. It takes place in autumn. So, boom. All right. Winter didn't seem to be in any hurry this year, she noticed. Not that she was going to complain about it. She enjoyed the fine weather as much as the rest of the Kongs. Donkey and Diddy in particular. Dixie clearly is not concerned about climate change. So, it was like 75 degrees here. We're recording this on the last day of November. So, Dixie, I wish I could go back 20 years and enjoy warm November sunshine like you, but it just worries me at this point. All right. Sorry. She was talking about Donkey and Diddy in particular. Okay. Those two. She smiled to herself. Oh, I guess it's not as antagonistic as I read it. Months after their victory over K. Rool and his hordes, they were still celebrating. Every day they got up whenever they felt like, gathered together a couple of hammocks, banana hammocks, I wonder, some music, and all the banana milkshakes they could drink, and took the whole lot deep into the jungle to spend the rest of the day chilling out in one of their favorite spots.
What? That's the fucking life right there.
I know, right? Some days, like today, Dixie could think of nothing better to do than invite herself along. Well, you're Diddy's girlfriend, so I hope he's inviting you along. God, it's a toxic relationship.
Is that the premise in Lee's version?
I guess. Hopping out of bed, she padded into the morning air. Oh, I thought that was going somewhere else with pads.
Ugh.
Dixie. Didn't Scraps have a theory that Scrap 69 have a theory that Donkey Kong Country 3 is actually the story about Dixie having her first period?
I think it's like a trope that any story about a young girl in some over her head situation like has to be interpreted as that in some way, but that's a stretch.
Dixie Kong and her week of wonders.
Oh my.
Hopping out of bed, she padded into the morning air, leapt for the nearest vine, and swung across to see if Diddy was up and about. She hadn't really expected him to be, so she was quite surprised to find his room deserted. It was only as she turned to wander back into the luxury of the sun's rays that she spotted the scribbled note on the table.
Goodbye, cruel world. Oh. No.
Dear Penthouse Letters, I never thought it could happen to me.
But Candy showed me her instrument.
I was in front of the Kremlin source, and I just had to fuck it. It was only a few words, informing her that Diddy and Donkey had hit upon another of their harebrained ideas, and set out immediately to follow it up. This time, they decided to go...
Rodney the harebrained
I know.
idea?
Oh, it's a shot at Rodney out of nowhere. This time, they decided to go exploring the islands neighboring the one they called their own. Back tomorrow, the note ended. All right, couple things. The northern hemisphere right here is referred to as the islands. So
that rules out it being the back of Kong Island.
Well, and it also we'll get into all the prevailing theories about the northern hemisphere, but I just find that interesting. Also, if I decided to tell my wife, or even when she was my fiance or girlfriend, that I was just going to disappear for a day, and I just left a note in my own room and expected her to find it, that relationship would have ended. So.
Or she'd think you were kidnapped by a giant mechanical robot.
Yeah, true. I did warn her when we started dating that is likely to happen at some point. But
yeah,
I realize this
chaos reigns.
I realize this is the era before you could just send a text to somebody, but they had phones. Give her a call, Diddy, man. God. All right.
God.
Dixie could remember at least 3 times that the wayward twosome had already tried this plan, never quite managing to make it further than a beach. So it was there that she decided to go looking for them.
Now, why haven't they made it further than the beach? Are they just like, I give up?
Yeah, I think it's implying that they're lazy assholes. So,
and do you think when they got past the beach, Diddy looked at DK and went, Mr. DK, this is the farthest I've ever gone.
Right. And then Mary and Pippin come out of the banana trees because they've been in Farmer Maggot's crop. Yeah. That's a reference to them hobbits in that thing.
Yeah.
That thing.
The ring.
The Bible. Okay. When she arrived at the bay, however, nobody was around. A few crabs scuttled sideways along the water's edge, but they weren't much help. I wonder if they were any relation to Happy Crab from off of Donkey Kong Land.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Or the crabs from Donkey Kong Country Returns, who would later reappear on the title menu of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Or the strain of crab that Swanky has been spreading around the island for a few years.
And Bachelor Bear, yeah, he can't escape from their crabs. Deciding that DK and actually, I would imagine Bachelor Bear would shave his pubes, but how does a bear manage that? Because clearly, the crabs can migrate northward.
I think he just puts a little patch of honey on a tree and then sticks it in there and then rips it out and then they're gone.
Oh, we really should write Donkey Kong Universe dating advice, as Bachelor Bear and Swanky Kong, as told to Hyle.
We should start our own love line, but call it Love Day line.
It's either that or we'll start off like that, and then it will just devolve, and we'll be writing books with Juilliard Styles next.
Of course.
All right, so. Deciding that DK and Diddy had either made it off Donkey Kong Island after all, or they simply gotten sidetracked even sooner than she'd expected, Dixie shrugged and headed back into the jungle. The sun cruised across the sky, sank towards the west, and finally disappeared, but the 2 apes failed to return. Dixie hoped they were enjoying themselves, wherever they were, as she tucked herself into bed with a yawn. So, if I hadn't heard, again, from my significant other, for a day, and it was already nightfall, I wouldn't have been able to tuck myself into bed with a yawn. No. I would have been frantically worrying. Yeah. So already, I'm thinking less of Dixie here. I'm thinking less of Diddy. But my favorite video game characters, and this story is making me hate them. So,
well, okay. Where was it said that she was his girlfriend officially?
It was alluded to or implied in the Donkey Kong Country 2 instruction manual and in cranky text, I think. Because
there's been no mention of it yet here, so maybe in Lee's version of things, he doesn't view them as such.
I think Lee knew what was up. He was taking his Diddy and Dixie action figures and making them kiss.
Because if they're just friends, this is a little bit more acceptable. She's like, well, I hope he's okay, but he'll be fine.
Well, Nick, every time I don't hear from you for a day, I worry myself to death.
How are those hives you broke out in doing? I know those are all from just worrying about me.
I know, yeah. Well, it's like, I hadn't heard from Nick. Granted, sometimes I don't hear from you till 5 minutes we're about to record, and then I really am worried. But all right, let's see. Morning came again, and another brief swing through the branches confirmed that Diddy was still off on his little expedition. And in spite of the note's promise, Dixie found herself starting to worry. Oh, thank God, finally. DK and Diddy made a pretty good team, but they seemed to take delight in getting in way over their heads. As the day crawled on and the jungle sounds faded, she wondered whether she was jumping to conclusions or this really was another of those situations. Dusk fell.
Those situations.
Dusk fell, and there was no sign of that familiar crashing in the undergrowth that would signal the pair's approach. I love the way Lee, conjures images, just the way he writes these sentences. Again, Dixie could do nothing but go back to bed and hope that they'd show up the next day. Of course, they didn't. And by nightfall, the young ape... Okay, she's a monkey. She's not an ape. The young ape's concern for the budding explorers was almost unbearable. Nice foreshadowing there. Yeah. None of the other Kongs seemed to be around much anymore either. So, unable to turn to them for reassurance, Dixie was left to make her own decision. It seemed that there was nothing else for it. Early the next morning, after one last check of the local haunts, she set out to track her friends down. A brief search for Funky with the intention of borrowing one of his planes turned up nothing, so Dixie resigned herself to a long swim in the general direction of the nearest island. I love this. I love that, because I'm always wondering, why don't they just get Funky's plane? Why don't,
that explains it.
And I like that maybe Funky keeps the keys with him so they can't just steal it.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to hotwire it. Because when Diddy takes off in Diddy Kong Racing, he has to go to Timbers Island. Donkey goes to the faraway lands in Jungle Beat, presumably. And I'm always wondering, well, how did they get there? Did they swim? That would be ridiculous.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but here, she has to swim. It should be pointed out really quick that in the Donkey Kong Country 3 instruction manual version of this, it says that Dixie swam, she made her way to the most southern point of the island and swam. And that created a minor controversy on the DK Vine bubble a few weeks ago when people started questioning, is the Northern Hemisphere actually south of Donkey Kong Island? But we'll address that afterwards. All right, actually, Nick, why don't you take over here, since we are changing our location?
Sure. When she finally dragged herself out of the water onto that distant coastline, she was half expecting strange new sights and sounds, but not the steady rhythm and strained female voice that came drifting down the shore. Oh, okay. Shaking the salt water from her fur as she followed the music to a dark cave mouth, Dixie was filled with relief to stumble upon a familiar face at last.
So many ways this could turn erotic really quickly.
Yeah. And this actually, looking ahead, this explains a lot of my questions I had about the instruction manual story. Oh, hello, Dixie dear, cooed Wrinkly Kong, turning from her exercise video. Cooed to face the bedraggled figure. Bedraggled?
That's a $10 word there, Lee.
Yeah. Come to see old Wrinkly's new home, have you? That's nice. New home? But Dixie blinked at the old ape in her pink tracksuit as she shuffled over to fetch the teapot. What about the school?
Wait.
Oh,
Hold on. Wrinkly didn't live in the school, I presume. That's very
could have been.
That's what a kid would think. My teacher.
Well, I think she's saying you gave up if you move to a whole nother island, that means you're kind of giving up your school duties. You know?
Okay, fair enough. I thought maybe it was when you were 5, you thought that your teacher must live in her.
No, she's saying you got to attend to the school. What are you doing in the Northern Hemisphere?
You blew up her school, Dixie. God.
Good point. But yeah, in the instruction booklet, it was she went to Wrinkly's house, and then went over to Funky's place, but it didn't say they were new places.
Yeah,
it was wait, during DKC 1 and 2, did Wrinkly live in the Northern Hemisphere this whole time?
Right. This
makes way more sense. This is officially in my headcanon now, unless something goes weird. Let's see.
Well, this was on Rare Sites, so this is pretty damn canon as far as our interests are concerned. Maybe not if you're a Nintendo purist, but if you're a Rare purist, this is canon.
What about the school? Oh, I gave that up weeks ago, dear.
When you blew it up!
Yeah, good point. I'm going to use my retirement to do all sorts of things I should have done years ago. The young visitor looked around. Apart from the stone walls, the redecorated cave was almost identical to Wrinkly's hut back in the jungle, complete with the same cozy old furniture. It's a nice cave, she said uncertainly.
I wonder if that's a reference to Cranky's cabin, because I can't imagine Cranky and Wrinkly actually aren't supposed to live together, minus when she was off teaching the Kremlings. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wrinkly's hut. Yeah, it could be.
I wonder if her grave also has the same cozy old furniture.
It better.
I just chucked it in.
Yes, isn't it lovely? Wrinkly beamed as she poured the tea. Very useful, too. There are tunnels that come in from miles around, so wherever you're off to, you've got no excuse for not popping in every now and then. Now that explains a lot, too.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, Lee Loveday has a way of making the contradictory gameplay elements make sense.
Now you know where I attempted to learn it from.
Yeah. Where are you off to, anyway? Dixie suddenly remembered why she was there. DK and Diddy, she said quickly. Have you seen them? Oh, yes. Passed by a couple of days ago, they did. Lovely boys, she confided.
I like how you're reading her as Shabunga from off of Star Fox Adventures now. Or maybe Mr. Pants.
Maybe. Did they say where they were going? I don't think so, dear. What are they up to now? I've no idea, Dixie groaned. I've no idea, Dixie groaned. Finishing off her tea, she got to her feet. Well, it's been very nice to see you, but I'm afraid I got to rush off, she said. I understand, Dixie dear, Wrinkly smiled. Call back soon, though, won't you? I will, she promised, and decided to leave the way she'd come rather than risk getting lost. Not too far away from Wrinkly's cave, Dixie spotted an old wooden shack settled amongst the weeds and boulders. Seizing an opportunity to find another lead on her friend, she crept up, knocked on the door, and stepped inside at the prompting of a deep, cheery voice. A bell chimed somewhere within. A customer, bellowed the great shaggy bear that stood behind a... Wait, did it say the voice was familiar or no? No, okay, no. It didn't. I was like, wait, what? A customer, marvelous, welcome to Bazaar's humble emporium. And what can I do for you, my little friend? Actually, I'm looking for a couple of apes that passed this way, Dixie said hopefully. I was wondering if you'd seen them.
I get Dixie. Diddy is not an ape. That's racist. He's a primate.
What is she?
What? Diddy's got
Maybe
a tail.
she is.
Diddy's got a tail.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, okay.
But Kongs are different, right?
That's my answer.
You never know. Yeah. Couple of apes, huh? The bear rubbed his chin. I think I'd remember that. Nope, can't help you there, I'm afraid. But I'll tell you what, I'm sure one of my brothers could. We're scattered all over the place, you see. So you're bound to run into some of the other boys on your travels.
Whoa. What? Why is this becoming Deliverance all of a sudden?
Anything else I might run into? Bazaar's eyes narrowed. Well, you want to watch out for those Kremlings, he said.
Yeah, well, that would have been good advice for us a couple weeks ago before we did that political feature.
Yeah. Kremlings here? They certainly are. Wasn't so long ago they started appearing, but they're already spreading like the flu. Heard they got a new leader, too. Chaos. Or something, they call him. So what if... Maybe he's not called Chaos and Bazaar's just an idiot.
No, Chaos, I think, refers to himself as Chaos.
Okay. Dixie was becoming more worried for DK and Diddy by the minute. I really need to find my friends, she fretted. They could be in trouble. In that case, you might want to pay a visit to our new neighbor over on the East Coast, Bazaar suggested. He sounds like the kind of fella who could help you out if you're in a hurry. Thanks, Dixie said as she made for the door. Hey, hold on there! What about all these bargains you're leaving behind? I'll come back when I can afford them, she called over her shoulder before scampering off in search of this mysterious new neighbor.
God.
You want to take over?
Yeah, sure. God, that's, all right, Bazaar. That's a... Yeah, Bazaar has a really pathetic sales pitch. He just berates customers when they walk out. Like, never browse in his store because he'll just, I don't know, lay into you.
It's like you're leaving Walmart and somebody runs up to you and say, "You sure you don't want This chair.
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you about our discount card.
So it's like GameStop, except it's when you walk in there.
Yeah. Well, GameStop's always so busy when I walk in. None of the employees ever bother me, so it's nice.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
On her way eastward, she was overtaken by a bizarre golden shape fluttering through the sky. It was obviously a bird of some sort, but not like any Dixie had seen before. For one thing, she couldn't help thinking that it looked like a... Don't be silly, she muttered to herself, watching it swoop down to land somewhere across the water in the distance. There were other things to concentrate on, so she forgot about the bird and focused her attention on the cabin squatting at the water's edge ahead. I should have known, she grinned, squeezing between the shaky wooden doors. Funky! Hey, girl! The oil-stained ape turned and looked at Dixie over his shades. What gives? How long has this been going on? She asked, gesturing around at the brand new motorboat workshop. Not bad, huh? Funky tossed and caught the spanner he'd been using. Only just set up here. You gotta expand if you're gonna succeed, right?
That's where it came from.
I suppose it keeps you out of trouble, Dixie smiled. Not like those other two. Whoa, I think I can guess who you mean. I'll bet you can.
He sounds like Michelangelo.
Yeah, that's how I always imagine him. Have you seen them? Can't say I have, Dix. But if you're going after them, you might want some help. He turned and whistled. Hey, kid. Aw, where you've gone now?
This is awesome. I've never read this
Babysitter's
before.
Club with Funky Kong. Dixie stared as a cupboard door popped open.
Oh, it's like the Dursleys. He's abusing him.
And a bulky pink shape tumbled out amidst the rest of the debris, rolling to a halt on the floor in front of her. The ball unrolled, giggled, and peered curiously at her. Meet Kitty, Funky sighed. Your little cousin, who you have apparently never met.
Yeah.
Don't
ask him to sing the song in the bathroom.
Though it might be fun to bring him along, but maybe I ain't cut out for babysitting after all. Yeah, you kept him in a cupboard, Funky. I would say no. Still, he said, brightening, you could use the help, right? Little guy ain't so little for his age, and I know you'll look after him. Okay, where are Kitty's parents at this point? Why would you just drop Kitty off at the local mechanic?
That's a good question, Dixie, and I'll answer it in the following response. We lost him in 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11, 1996. They, yeah.
Different event, but just as horrific.
Alright. Dixie blinked. It didn't look as if she had much choice. And anyway, there was no resisting the wide-eyed nipper as he sat dribbling happily onto her foot. Oh, God.
Nipper? What is this, Treasure Trove Cove?
Okay, she said slowly, but I don't know where to look next. No problemo, Funky replied, snapping his fingers. Your timing kicks, girl. Just finished it this morning. Come see.
Play it loud.
He zipped onto the wharf that extended from his workshop, Kitty bouncing along in tow. Dixie's doubts were eased when she saw the perfectly good motorboat bobbing on the end of its mooring rope. Pretty cool, no? Funky was obviously proud. Guess I can let you borrow it for a while. There's plenty of places to go looking over there. He waved vaguely across the water. Thanks, Funky. They can't have gone too far. Hey, you'll find them. Come on, hop in. Dixie and her new traveling companion did as they were told, and Funky showed them how to steer his latest pride and joy. I'm working on something else now, he added. Maybe I'll catch up with you later, huh? Okay, Dixie agreed, checking that Kitty wasn't about to throw himself overboard.
That's what's happening on the front cover.
It would have been great if Kitty was a suicidal toddler. We'll see you then. Yup, good luck, guys. Funky cast them off, the boat revved, and they were away. Funky watched them go, wondering how long the sudden peace and quiet would last. When the boat had shrunk to a dot on the horizon, he turned. All right. Where exactly?
And he said to himself, I give him 3 minutes.
All right, so that's the story.
That honestly enhanced my idea of the game so much. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, as a kid, the other games I loved, like Rayman and stuff, like there was, or maybe there was stuff like this, but
hold on.
French.
There's a little bit more. I suddenly I missed it. He turned, picked up his spanner, and flicked on the ghetto blaster as he got down to some serious work. Okay, I apologize.
Oh yeah, that was worth finishing. In fact, actually, that kind of changes my entire. I don't like it anymore. I feel like ghetto blaster is sort of a racist term.
Right.
So.
Well, Trump won, so no more ghetto blasters.
Yeah. If anything, we'll blast the ghettos.
We're normalizing the lack of ghetto blasters. From now on, it's nothing but 8 tracks and what other else us white folk listen to. Am I right?
I want to meet the guy who normalized the word normalize, because he must be raking in the dough. Right? But yeah, that fleshed it out so much. Now when I play the game,
pink flesh of Kitty Kong.
Yes, the pink rolling flesh in the squatting cabin under the phallic birds in the sky. But yeah, now whenever I play it from the beginning, I'll imagine, okay, all this just happened. All right, this is awesome. Like, it's more enriching, and like there's other games I loved as a kid that didn't have this sort of written out story, or if they did, I didn't know about it. So
well,
what I
find interesting is, there are some parts that kind of contradict what we've seen in game, like the in-game dialogue of when you first meet Wrinkly and Funky and Bizarre Bear. But I'm sure maybe they could have had other discussions, in between.
The only thing missing really is like the explanation of what they're doing there. And then it's just like a simplified version of what they said next.
Yeah, and in this story, you don't have Wrinkly explaining to you that she can save your game or whatnot with the bid.
Or the banana birds. She doesn't even mention them.
Right. So, yeah, I love that, though, and that really does inform a lot of my general opinion. That and some of the instruction booklet and some of what Nintendo Power presented in the build-up. So... yeah, I mean,
it's not ideal to not have any of that info in the game. I'll say that. What we discussed last week, I believe Ian Gibbon brought it up. It is weird that if you were to play it without reading any of that, you'd just be like, I guess this is just a banana bird catch and adventure then?
It is a convoluted plot. And not convoluted in that it's confusing, but it's vague. There's stuff... definitely
it's not
happening.
Accessible. You have to go out and search for the plot in other ways.
Video game plots generally work, especially in things like platformers, when you have a very simple objective, something that can be conveyed pretty basically within the first level or in a short cutscene. What Donkey Kong Country 3 is, it's something that would work in a movie, but in an actual video game, it's kind of
gotcha. Yeah,
opaque.
they got ambitious. They got a little too ambitious, but if you seek out what we just read and the instruction booklet and you piece it all together, I think it's my favorite of the stories, actually, because it's like you're in this alien land, you're told there's a new boss in town named Chaos, and it's not like we've seen him yet, or it's just, even if the payoff isn't worth it, it's a really cool start to a game. You're like, what the hell? Now I gotta babysit this little kid, and now I'm in a boat with an open world map, and I could go explore. Like, the sense of exploration is just really cool at the beginning of this game, especially with Evelyn Fisher's theme going on in the background. But
yeah. What I like about the plot is, we had Donkey Kong kidnapped in the last game, Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Land 2. And to have both Donkey and Diddy kidnapped again would not only be unoriginal, but it would immediately lessen the stakes, because it just, K-Rool is essentially Bowser at this point. So to have the game be a mystery about their whereabouts, and Kremlings are back and they've got a new leader, and there's this mystery of the banana birds and all these other parts that
mystery is what I love about it.
Yeah, the game is a mystery. It's Dixie trying to solve this mystery of what's going on in the Northern Hemisphere, and everything eventually coalesces around it being just K-Rool being a fucker. But
I could even see like Dixie Kong's Double Trouble being like an old what was the female version of Hardy Boys? Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew, yeah.
Like a little Nancy Drew pocket novel of her out in the wilderness with her little cousin trying to solve a mystery.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Nancy Drew. I brought up the Babysitters Club.
Yeah.
There's a theory that
Let's not get on Boxcar Children again, okay?
They just wanted some bread, Nick. They just wanted some bread. There's a theory that I actually subscribe to that the first 3 Donkey Kong Country games, the original trilogy, each game kind of takes the personality of its main protagonist. So Donkey Kong Country is Donkey Kong's game. It takes place in the jungle and very natural, soothing environments. It's very naturalistic, minus, things like Creme Croc, but that's juxtaposition is supposed to be there. And it's kind of laid back, kind of chill. There's less pressure in that game to really get all the secrets. You just kind of play it in your own leisure. Donkey Kong Country 2, it's very much Diddy's game. It is a 12-year-old boy's game. Pirates.
It's the Goonies.
The Goonies, yes. Swashbuckling adventure on a dangerous pirate haven. It is a game designed for somebody like Diddy Kong. Donkey Kong Country 3, it's a 12 or 13-year-old girl's game. It's the Babysitter's Club. It's a Nancy Drew novel. It's full of cuddly teddy bears. It's
You know what? That's why it's my favorite, Hal, because I'm really in touch with that side of me. I don't know if you are. I mean, but for me, I just feel like I'm just a little bit more understanding and sensitive to that kind of stuff.
The thing is, as I've gotten older, the more I relate to adolescent girls. Not in that way. What I mean is, the more I
Alice and Girls? The character Alice in the show Girls?
Is there a character called Alice in the show?
I don't know. What did you just say?
Oh, adolescent girls, and then I realized,
adolescent girls,
and then I realized how that sounded. What I mean is, I kind of get more in touch with my feminine side the older I get, because the more I'm secure enough in my own masculinity to realize.
Well, I didn't hang out with little girls when I was little, so I can't say if I'm like them, but I certainly wasn't like a lot of the boys I was hanging out with.
I also think getting married helps, because you see the world through a different person's perspective.
And you see you're not so different after all.
Yeah. So, but that's the way I view Donkey Kong Country 3. It's very much Dixie Kong's game, and so the environment kind of speaks to the kind of adventure she would have by herself. So
I consider Dixie Kong like our friend, so let's just call her Dix.
Dix, yeah. Apparently that's what her close friends call her.
Man, if Diddy were to tell her she sucks, that would not go well.
Hey, Diddy man, I heard you like the dicks.
You really suck, Dix. Oh, I didn't mean it like that.
We could go on like this for another hour and a half, but I would advise against it.
Let's.
And by the way, the subtitle, we didn't really address this last week. And by not really, I mean not at all. The subtitle, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble.
No, we did address it.
No, but we didn't address what it means, did we?
Oh, yeah, that's another mystery to solve.
This is the way I interpret it. Dixie Kong's Double Trouble means the adventure, the Kremlins, Donkey and Diddy being missing as one component, and having to babysit Kitty Kong as the other component. That's the way I understand it.
I completely, that's my take too. My alternate take is that not only is DK kidnapped, Diddy is too. So it's two people you gotta rescue.
Maybe, but again, we don't know they're kidnapped, and they're not kidnapped in the traditional sense. So Rare changed it up enough.
It's just an alternate theory, but I do agree with, yes, it's not only do I have to do this thing, but I gotta also babysit Kitty.
Yeah.
Correct.
And, a lot of people shit on Kitty Kong, so let's get right into...
Ew, is that legal?
I don't know what the laws are in Bear Country, Nick, but...
Good point.
No, we'll actually get into the Kongs here, but I want to talk about the setting, first of all, since we're talking about where they are. So let's talk about the Northern Hemisphere. The most vague of the settings in the original trilogy, and actually in every Donkey Kong Country game thus far.
I love the vagueness.
Well, it's vague because there's contradictory information depending on what source you use about what exactly the Northern Hemisphere is and where it's located. You see it referenced a lot in Lee Loveday's story as the islands or the nearest island or whatever. So here it's definitely, as admission by Lee, it's definitely part of the Rare Archipelago, just another island. That's how DK Vine views it officially. That's how Cameron Regal drew it on his Rare Archipelago map.
Haven't we thrown the word continent around too?
That's been thrown around by other people, but
Okay.
again, here's the issue, because some people call it the mainland, or Donkey Kong, Country took place on Donkey Kong Island. Donkey Kong Country 2 took place on Enemy Island. So Donkey Kong Country 3 takes place on neutral mainland. But I don't like the idea that it's mainland, just because that immediately tells you that Donkey Kong's world cannot possibly take place on our own. It's one thing if there's fictional islands in the ocean, but if you have mainland, that suddenly not only says that the Donkey Kong Island and other places like Crocodile Isle, Timbers Island, etc., are just off the coast of this fictional continent, but it also just says that it's also a quite fictional version of Earth. And yes, I know, talking bears, talking monkeys, talking gorillas, it can't possibly be on our Earth. But again, I've always argued that there's the possibility that these are unseen islands where crazy things happen, like apes developing.
Well, Lee Loveday just said just that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I like that they're unseen islands where evolution kind of took a different turn, as well as magical shit happening. So, literally magical shits. Great Mighty Pooh.
And we'll get to the Kremlings, but evolution definitely took a different turn with them.
Yeah, so... and of course, then there's the argument that, well, it actually takes place on Mario's planet. It's in the Mushroom Earth, which DK Vine controversially doesn't subscribe to, because we view it more...
Where does that come from? In what instruction manual? That's just like... just such a... like pipe dream leap, like what if it was on Mario's world?
Well, that's, I think, Mario Wiki stance. That's the stance ever since the buyout and Donkey Kong's cast got incorporated more and more into Mario sports games, essentially. And so there's a general underlying assumption now that, oh yeah, the Kongs just live on Mushroom Earth. But because we're rare focused here on DK Vine, we are under the assumption, based on the evidence in all the other games in the shared universe, that Donkey Kong Island, Crocodile Isle, and the Northern Hemisphere take place on Earth. So
I refuse to believe that Nid exists in the same world as Mario.
You're really hung up on Nid this week, Nick.
Yeah.
I never knew Nid was your favorite Donkey Kong enemy, or maybe friend.
Oh yeah, watch your fucking tongue, okay?
Because I don't know what's the second time, but it makes me sound like I'm mocking people like Donald Trump. So I'm not gonna do that.
Good burger level humor right there.
Good, yeah, I know, right? Wait, Good Burger, another classic from the mid '90s.
Just like DKC3.
Only '90s kids will understand this episode.
Yeah, only '90s kids.
So, yeah, I think the Northern Hemisphere is its own island. Chad, of course, is still under the operating assumption that the Northern Hemisphere is actually the backside of Donkey Kong Island. And again, as we brought up before, the reason he thinks this is because in the instruction manual...
He loves backsides. We've been over it.
We've been over it. He's been over the backside, too. But the reason he thinks that is because in the instruction booklet, it says Dixie jumped off the most southern point of Donkey Kong Island and swam to the nearest mainland. We see potentially that visualized as the game begins. Dixie jumps off a landmass and swims to Wrinkly's Save Cave. But
what's the definition of mainland? Like, can it just be like a big part of an island? Or is that stupid?
Mainland is usually considered not like the closest to a continent, like what's connected to a continent off an island. But anyway,
it's like a beach or something.
Yeah. So, but because what Dixie jumps off of at the beginning of Donkey Kong Country 3 is actually connected to the rest of the Northern Hemisphere, that's why Chad argues that it's actually Donkey Kong Island and just a different territory, governing body on Donkey Kong Island. But I think we just have to assume that the instruction manual is wrong, and that what we're seeing is Dixie already on the Northern Hemisphere as the game begins, then jumping into a lake and swimming to where there's noise, as explained in Lee Loveday's version of
I gotta subscribe to that idea, personally. It just feels better. That's just me.
And of course, Cameron Regal had a minor crisis of conscience when he found out that the instruction manual says that Dixie went to the most southern point on Donkey Kong Island to swim to the Northern Hemisphere. But to that, I would argue maybe that's just because that's where the beaches are, and she like didn't feel like hiking to the other side of the jungle, especially if she didn't have access to a vehicle. So she just swam around the perimeter of the island north to the northern hemisphere, because
You
ultimately,
can really, even if Cameron were to stubbornly say that he was correct originally, who would question him? Like, you can make it whatever you want in your head, you know?
you can, yeah. DK Vine, I think
It's flexible.
the majority of the staff our idea and what we endorse is that the northern hemisphere is to the north of both Donkey Kong Island and
For
Crocodile
instance,
Isle.
when you guys gave Greg Mails a copy of his map, he was overjoyed by it. I don't remember him going, hold on. What the fuck is this right here? This is supposed to be southern. You fucking twat. It's no one's gonna question it.
Keep in mind, Greg Mails didn't work on this game, so
Sure, but I'm just saying. Okay, all right.
He might not give a shit. Well,
but it's up on the wall at Rare, so somebody had to have come along and be like, "Blimey, error."
Yep, that's the way they all sound over at Rare.
Hey, according to their games, I'm just going off of the games.
So anyway, but yeah, it's my belief that this is the northern hemisphere is actually near autumn heights from tropical freeze, and that it's relatively adjacent to it, and the rest of the tropical freeze islands minus Lost Mangroves are to the south of the northern hemisphere. But you know, again, it is whatever you want it to be, because we are only fans here at DK Vine and on the Kongversation. We can only share the evidence we believe we've gathered, but ultimately it's clear there's no definitive answer on this. So whatever.
Plus, Cameron has a point. It's called the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
Why would it be called that if it's if it's southern?
I do want to get into why it's called the northern hemisphere. Really
just because it's a pun.
Well, it's a pun, yeah, and Rare, God knows they love puns. But here's the thing: like, there's the idea that Donkey Kong Country, the original game, gives that the Kremlings once had their empire extend to Donkey Kong Island because you had all these Kremling temples on it, and that the Kongs drove them off the island at some point and claimed it for their own. So I assume the same happened here in the northern hemisphere, because the Kremlings do have various landmarks here. There's Kremwood Forest. There's Krematoa. Even what's Castle Chaos seems to be quite old, and if the Kremlings, you know, owned it already, then, you know, it was probably built there, you know, over at least a century ago. So I think the northern hemisphere was also Kremling territory, the northernmost Kremling territory, part of their Kremlantis empire, and the Kongs and the Bears basically teamed up to overthrow the Kremlings from their various territories, driving them
why not
to Crocodile
break the fourth wall here a little bit and read into something. Chad, our own Chad, who's joining us this evening. Wow.
Oh, hi, Chad.
Chad's
Chad's
right now.
in the Twitch stream.
Let's see how he's eloquently putting it. Let's see. Why is Virginia called the South? It's the middle. Maybe a long time ago that was the northern post of the Kremisphere, because Crocodile Isle was south, and that would have been the southern tip of DK Island, the northern Kremisphere. Eat it, Russell. I am a golden god. So, having
Chad,
read that,
as a native Virginian, not a native Virginian, I was born in Pennsylvania, but I've lived in Virginia most of my life. So I'll explain to you why Virginia is considered the South. It's because we owned slaves. We owned a whole mess of slaves.
So in northern Kremisphere, there were no slaves.
Right. No, they fought the tyranny of the South, the faraway lands, the jungle beat.
They had flying squirrels picking all their juice.
All their what?
Juice. I don't know what
Oh,
that means.
juice. Okay. I was like, good God, Nick, this isn't Breitbart.
No, it's Crankbart. But all right, yeah. Thank you for the input. I think he has a point.
Chad, I'm feeling magnanimous tonight. You can believe whatever you want to believe about the Northern Hemisphere, and I'm not.
This feels a little weird. This feels like I am a stand-in for Lin-Manuel Miranda in Hamilton, and he's in the audience heckling me. So it's kind of weird. But
well, you're trying to heckle
thank you
Mike
for,
Pence. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for stopping by, Chad. We're glad you could come see the show. I hope that what we're saying here inspires you tonight to maybe, think about all the places in the DKC world, So
Well, you know what? Like I said, there's no answer to this. And I like that Chad is just heckling the conversation like those old Muppets.
Yeah, I love Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. Waldorf from Conker's Pocket Tales?
Oh, maybe.
From off of Conker's Pocket Tales?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, yeah. But I do like the idea that the Kongs and the Bears teamed up and drove the Kremlantis Empire back to Crocodile Isle. The only question I have is why haven't the Bears renamed the Northern Hemisphere? I mean, it's clearly bear-controlled territory. They have their own currency. So why isn't it,
Yeah, I view this as sort of it's not the exact same thing, but like Isle of Hags, like it's more of a Jinjo place, but they took over and the name stuck, I guess.
Yeah, maybe because there's no bears conceited enough like Cranky Kong to just name the island after themselves. And
they probably had like a coalition. They're like, we're gonna officially rename the island after we take a nap and eat some honey. So they just forgot about it.
Right, yeah. They were too busy hibernating every winter to actually rename their island. I don't know. Maybe the Brothers Bear Historical Preservation Society is much stronger than any equivalent that the Kongs have. And
I think the Kong should revisit, maybe briefly, not for a whole game, or have a reference to the Northern Hemisphere, and now it should have a different name with the word bear in it.
Yeah, I would be interested to see which bear, becomes like their leader, the equivalent of Cranky and then later Donkey Kong.
Well, it's a simple question. Which Brothers Bear is best?
Which Brothers Bear is best? Which we've been trying to answer here at DK Vine since, for 5 years now, since the podcast came
more
up
divisive than the recent election, really.
Much more divisive.
I went to Thanksgiving dinner just recently, and I was like, all right, listen up. We're going to have a good night tonight. No politics talk. And then I'm sitting there in silence eating my stuffing, and Uncle Frick out of nowhere goes,
Frick
how about that blue bear? I was like, get the fuck out of this house, Frick.
Well,
this is a bachelor household.
Uncle Frick Prol just wanted you to remember Blue's birthday, Nick.
Sure. Actually, I do have an Uncle Frick, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
It's his last name.
I thought that was just a humorous name you pulled.
It was humorous. It came out, and then I realized, wait, that is my uncle's last name. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's interesting that the Northern Hemisphere still has this name and this implied history. I always love this. This is what I love about Rare, from the Donkey Kong Country days to Sea of Thieves. They're so good about telling you so much about the world without saying anything at all. Just the visual story they put into everything. Exactly.
I love Rare, and it's clearly going to be extending to Platonic as well when you look at Ukulele. So
hopefully.
There's a reason I'm a fan of these guys and gals, and it's even, despite Donkey Kong Country 3 being a different team, they were still.
We should touch on that because
we'll touch upon that at the end.
Oh, okay. Because I have a few words on that
about it being a different team.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'd say get strapped in, get ready for about 5 to 6 words on the matter.
Oh, well, I mean, no need to, be long-winded, Nick. I mean, we wouldn't want to be long-winded on the conversation.
All right,
maybe
3 words.
2.
3 words.
Okay,
2.
3.
Okay.
2 is good. All right. So let's talk about the characters. And I think it's best to start with the protagonist. What's that?
Let's do it. I just said characters.
Oh, I didn't know if that was your Bizarre Bear voice, which I think is my favorite interpretation of any Donkey Kong Universe character. Can we hear a little bit of your Bizarre again?
If I can remember it. Characters? Squeal like a piggy.
Why is he a southern rapist now? Like, he's more southern than Banjo. It's... All right.
Yeah, David got it. I was the characters was off of Homestar Runner.
See, I have very limited pop culture references. I can reference.
Oh, that's early
sitcoms.
2000s cult animation knowledge. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I was off making Lone Star Emmy Award-winning comedy with Chad at that point. So
Yeah, and I was sitting watching Homestar Runner on a computer. I think you were doing better.
I don't know how conversations about Homestar Runner are a lot more likely to come up versus conversations about our show. So
Yeah, but conversations about the Emmys come up, and you can always just kind of slide that in there and be like, yeah, I remember my Emmy. But anyway,
I remember, as they say on South Park. Am I right, South Park?
am I right, guys?
Am I right?
I remember.
Who watches South Park here?
I actually do enjoy that show's take on things.
I'm just being an asshole because
Yeah,
I know
I know.
Chad's watching.
I used to hate it, but
I can't be antagonistic
became...
towards Chad when you're here, but now I can because he's watching. He's listening.
Oh, good lord. This is like a weird three-way I didn't want to be a part of.
Yeah. Chad's my cuck, as they say in the alt-right. I'm cuckolding Chad with Nick.
Can we get through one conversation where we don't say cuck?
Nope. It's the new thing. It's what we do. All right.
It's normalized.
Dixie Kong. Let's talk about Dixie Kong.
All right.
So, how cool is it that Dixie Kong gets her own game in 1996?
Fucking cool.
The thing about Dixie Kong, this is her hero quest, the same way Diddy's hero quest was the last game.
Exactly.
But that part's kind of downplayed. It's not really brought up because Diddy's character, as introduced in Donkey Kong Country, that was what he wanted to be. He wanted to be a video game hero. Started off as just this wannabe sidekick.
She's not into that. They're off adventuring when she's usually not, so that's not her thing.
Well, yeah, Dixie's didn't really care about the titles or the prestige. She really just loved the thrill of adventure. And
She doesn't need hero coins or standing next to other Nintendo characters and rubbing it in their face.
She still collects hero coins. Even though they're called DK coins, they're still
That's
hero
what I'm
coins.
saying.
They're
They
still
ain't
called
hero
coins.
coins.
Yeah,
No,
they're
they're-
hero coins.
They're not for Cranky's competition, so it's not hero coins.
They're still the same hero coin.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
This is one thing I get very stickly about. It's I don't like that they tried to change the name of the hero coins to DK coins.
But weren't you just saying that she doesn't need the same trophy as Diddy and all that?
But I think it's good and important for her character that she still receives that validation, even if she herself doesn't care about it. I would say because
you're getting
of
deep now.
I would say because of Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie is a valid, legitimate solo heroine video game hero, just like Diddy Kong, just like Donkey Kong, just like Cranky Kong. And that's why Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is such an important game, because it represents the first time that all four legit video game heroes, certified video game heroes, are playable in the same game.
DKC3 was her official solo outing, but to me, she was already a hero before that because you could play as mostly her through all of DKC2. So
yeah, well, and Diddy was, still a hero based off his role in Donkey Kong Country.
He was a hero. Yeah. I'm just saying,
But
you don't need hero points to make you a hero.
The title video game hero is a thing that exists, and it shows that she could then headline her own game without any of the other Kongs, a la Diddy Kong Racing. So
she could have like a Tomb Raider style spinoff.
She hasn't yet, but yeah, I would love to see a Dixie spinoff at some point.
Baboon Raider.
But the thing about Dixie Kong in this game, and her role as a protagonist, is Nintendo tried to downplay it because they were afraid of a female character scaring off male gamers, little like boys, as essentially. And we see this time and again in entertainment. Just last year,
I literally have a memory in middle school or high school. There was a rumored game called StarCraft Ghost, which was taking the StarCraft strategy series and making like an action stealth game out of it, and it never came out. But I remember a friend of mine being like, "Oh, I'm so excited for StarCraft Ghost." I was like, "Yeah, me too. It's going to be cool to be able to play as whatever the character Nova. Oh, I forget what her name is." But when he found out it was a girl character, he was like, "Oh, I'm canceling my pre-order." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, that's dumb. That's lame. I can't relate to that." So
I can't relate to vaginas, man.
Yeah. But yeah, that seems to be that was an issue.
You still see it. Just last year we had a new Star Wars movie, and there was a lady as the protagonist, And this year we have a Star Wars movie, and there's a lady as the protagonist. And
But you don't say.
You don't say, yeah. Apparently, a lot of people on the internet had a problem with it, but you didn't see toys of her when the movie came out because Hasbro was scared.
Yeah, they fixed that. I just saw a Jyn Erso toy in Walgreens yesterday.
Yeah, you see a bunch of Rey and Jyn Erso toys now, but a year ago they didn't. They had to be called out on it.
Yeah,
publicly shamed. And you still, like, when Avengers toys are on the shelves, you don't see Black Widow. You don't see Scarlet Witch or anything. So, I mean, this is something that's still going on 20 years later. But to me, like, I thought it was really cool that Dixie, because I love the character of Dixie Kong, and I think I've mentioned before that it always bothered me. For example, whenever I would collect a toy series, say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was always so hard to find April, for example. Even though you wanted and needed April to complete your collection and to have legit turtle adventures.
Oh, just find a Megan Fox toy and just put a vest on it or something.
Yeah, that was really easy to do in 1991.
Oh, it was easier than you think. She's been around for a long, long time. She's an ancient one.
Oh yeah, her thumbs grow with each year that passes.
Yes. Oh wow, that's shallow, Hyle.
I'm not. Well, I wasn't saying like she's unattractive.
Jack Black in Shallow Hyle, new comedy.
I'm not saying she's an unattractive lady.
I know, but that's like a Seinfeld thing. It's like, I was okay with her till I saw her thumbs.
There's dust everywhere from the train towers. I'm breathing it in.
Too? Oh, I love that thing.
Phenomenal. That was the best. The
this
best
guy's
thing
box
I've
cutter
read
brought down the towers.
That was
for what's right.
I would highly recommend everybody read the 9/11 Seinfeld script that somebody wrote, but it deserves to be read by everybody who loves good comedy. So long as you're familiar with Seinfeld, otherwise I don't think the jokes would land. But
I recognize that sneeze anywhere. That's the sneeze of a hero.
I love the bit. I love the bit, and this is a tangent now, but I love the bit where George wiped his mouth with the sash he got it from the, the hero of the city. Like, he was staring at the Statue of Liberty, like, and then he just wiped his mouth, and I was like,
that was subtle.
That is such a like ripped from Seinfeld moment. I loved it. Anyway, so Nintendo really tried to downplay Dixie being the protagonist. The commercial, as I mentioned last week, even had the announcer saying, starring Kiddy Kong. Even despite the subtitle being Dixie Kong's Double Trouble,
Nintendo said him was first?
Really trying to hold that part underneath the covers where like the public couldn't figure it out until it was too late and they had already bought the game.
Wait, did they say Kiddy Kong and Dixie Kong or just Kiddy Kong?
Just Kiddy Kong.
What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna destroy my room right now. What the hell?
As Matt Cornah would say, pause the podcast and go look that commercial up on YouTube.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's not starring Kiddy Kong at all. And
I'm not even trying to be like, obnoxiously progressive, but at least say the name of the second character or the main character.
Yeah, if you really want to be obnoxiously progressive, go to Whole Foods
and shop there regularly.
Sample some wine, and then start shouting about how unfair it was that Nintendo of America marketed Kiddy Kong over Dixie Kong in 1996.
Sir, we're going to have to move you over to our organic soap section. You're scaring the elderly. Yeah, but Kiddy Kong ain't even the main fucking character.
We really should do this now. Like, DK Vine should do a YouTube video where we scare the straights in Whole Food yelling about Kiddy Kong.
I'm going to steal this kale. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about Kiddy Kong.
Right. I love the guy.
I was going to say that he's the elephant in the room, but that's Ellie.
Yeah.
Kiddy Kong, it's controversial. I love the Geek Critique on YouTube. Josh Wallen, friend of the show. We, Chad and I actually just appeared on the Geek Critique. We on his Donkey Kong wrap-up, this two-parter. And, he hates Kiddy Kong. And a lot of people hate Kiddy Kong.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Josh. Just kidding.
I understand why people hate Kiddy Kong, but I would argue it's a misplaced hatred. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's got an odd design, as a lot of the art direction in this game is a bit different from the first two games. He's a big-lipped toddler with like a onesie nappy pajama type thing with the feet stretched out on the bottom, and his fur bulging out from it, and he's got that pseudo Donkey Kong cowlick that he's like slicked up himself.
Which I like to think is because he idolizes Donkey Kong.
I would like to think that as well.
And you gotta love my favorite part, the toes, the little saggy socks.
So he's a weird design, at least weird in comparison to. Now, granted, not more weird than Dixie Kong if you really want to get technical. He's not a monkey with a long, luxurious blonde ponytail and a pink beret.
Yeah,
but he's still a bit off and a bit uglier in design. But I would argue his design is supposed to be ugly. He's supposed to be a big, ugly, dumb toddler baby, and I think the reason is because Rare couldn't have another likable sidekick that warranted his own game. They had to kind of kill this progression outright.
They had to abort it, so to speak.
Or, yeah, this is a real late-term abortion for Kiddy Kong. But, yeah, that's why Kiddy Kong, it's fundamentally unappealing, at least compared to Diddy and Dixie. Diddy was so popular, he took over the sequel to the game. Dixie was so popular, she took over the sequel to that game. Kiddy Kong couldn't be popular because this was the end of the road.
Do you think if the doctor came to his parents and said, "I regret to inform you, your child, when you have your child, it will be fundamentally unappealing, and Josh from the Geek Critique will not enjoy him"? Do you think they would have gone through with the birth?
It's my theory that Kiddy Kong is adopted, because if you study his fingers...
Because with looks like that, he had to have been given up at birth.
Well, precisely my point.
Yeah.
But no, he's got 5 fingers. And Dixie, her cousin, has 4 fingers. But not only that, his brother Chunky Kong also has 4 fingers. So, I used to say Kiddy
prosthetic nose-picking finger. That's what I say.
I used to say Kiddy Kong was a baboon for some reason. I think because he lacked Donkey Kong's and the other gorilla's brow. But I think M-Dog on DK Vine's forum has since convinced me. And see, my mind can be changed, people.
Okay.
That Kiddy Kong is a young gorilla. Because if you look at young Donkey Kong Jr., he too lacked the brow. So I think it's something that gorillas kind of age into, or can age into. So.
Did they have some design Bible that got passed from team to team, like don't give this many fingers, don't forget the brow, or did it just all kind of happenstance fall into this?
The thing is, the designs for the Kongs were done by like Steve Males, and
Kitty was designed by Satan.
You're right. No, Donkey Kong Country 3 was designed... Kev Bayless also designed the Kongs.
Mark Stevenson?
Yes, Mark Stevenson.
Because Q-Burn is making a good point. Because he noticed that every new character in both DKC3 and DK64 tended to have a gigantic bottom lip. And that maybe that's a Mark Stevenson trademark.
I believe it is. Mark Stevenson was heading up the art for this game. Mark Stevenson now at Playtonic, and actually, if you look at a lot of ukulele artwork, it does resemble a lot of Donkey Kong Country 3 characters. Granted, they also have Ed Bryan from Banjo-Kazooie doing some art for them.
It's a big old mix.
It's a nice smorgasbord of vintage Rare talent.
It's a tossed salad, so to speak. Kelsey Grammer. He's bringing it back.
Why are we the way we are? Mark Stevenson definitely has his own art style. I don't think there was a Bible of how to design the Kongs, because they clearly, if they were, they clearly lost the Bible. They threw it in the trash in the hotel room, like me, somewhere along the way, especially between this game and Donkey Kong 64. But you can fan wank it away, and I do think Kiddy Kong was adopted for that arbitrary reason. I don't think it's that arbitrary, but I know the rest of Donkey Kong fandom thinks it's arbitrary, and they think I'm a nutter. So,
Don't worry, Hal. I don't think you're a nutter.
oh, thanks, Nick.
I think
That
you're a
doesn't really
nutter
help.
butter.
All right. So, yeah, that's my argument for Kitty Kong. And there it can kind of be turned around. If you have a problem with it, think of him in those terms, and that he's supposed to be a burden on Dixie Kong. It's right there in the subtitle, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble.
Yes.
So if you do that, he's not supposed to be as endearing as Diddy or Dixie or Donkey or
a weird parallel that I've drawn is did you read the series of Unfortunate Events books?
No, I did not, because again, I was making local Emmy-winning television at that time. That's my excuse
true.
for all of the gaps in my early to mid-aughts knowledge.
You could just use it for anything. Someone would be like, "Did you see that new movie Arrival?" You'd be like, "No, I was making Emmy award-winning public." Oh wait, that came out this week.
You don't know what I've been up to this week, Nick. You don't know.
I don't. But yeah, in that series, it was about three kids who went through a series of what's the word? Oh yeah, unfortunate events. Yeah, that's a good way to describe
I stepped on your joke there.
And I mean, talk about a great series. I was more into that than Harry Potter. Even it's such a great introduction to like more clever and postmodern like literature for kids or whatever. But that's not what this is about. In it, there's three characters who are orphans, and one's like a boy who's smart, the other's a girl who's like crafty, and then they have a little baby that doesn't talk but has like an extremely strong bite, and like they use it almost as a tool to get things done. And so that kind of, you could draw a parallel of Diddy, Dixie, and Kitty in a strange way.
Oh, okay. So Kitty
So
is the
maybe it's a
useless one.
trope of like this, every animated or fictional family has to have a little baby that's more powerful than you think. Like think about the one in The Incredibles, was it Jack or whatever, or how in The Simpsons, what's the baby's name?
Maggie shot Mr. Burns.
Yeah, Maggie has, intelligence or in Family Guy, what's that little asshole's name? Piece of shit.
The entire cast.
Yeah, the entire cast. But you know what I mean? There's that trope of like, there's more to the baby than you think. And in this case, it's that you can throw him like a boulder.
Jim Henson's Dinosaurs, Not the Mama.
Not the mama.
Yeah, Not the Mama. Oh, I love the early 90s. Kitty is not very precocious though, unlike those babies. He's kind of just he's a toddler, and you can throw him. And I love though, like he is kind of dim a little bit. I love his big stupid wave he does. I
think Dim would have been a great name, Dim Kong.
Dimmy Kong, yeah. His gif of him waving is the one of the favorite emoticons on the DK Vine forum. The "You're going to get banned" emoticon.
I never use it for that reason though.
No, well, we don't really ban people anymore, do we?
Yeah.
Unless they're obnoxious and actually outright hostile for a prolonged period of time, or just legitimate trolls. But David Lynch would have to speak to that. So, yeah, Kitty Kong. And then there's the argument about Kitty Kong, of course. He hasn't reappeared since Donkey Kong Land 3. He came close in Donkey Kong Racing, but alas, that never came to be. So if Kitty Kong were to reappear 20 years later, well, Tiny Kong is aged, so Kitty Kong would have to be aged, right?
Sure.
And I'm steadfast. Yes, Kitty Kong has to be aged, but it amazes me how many people are against this idea because it would ruin the purpose of his character. Ultimately, I will defer to continuity over personal preferences at any time. Like,
I think he could still be grown up and still be a kid at heart, or even, this would be politically incorrect, but have the mind of a child.
Well, again, I'm referencing M-Dog. He's against this idea of him aging, but I think he even suggested that if he were to be aged, make him basically Buster Bluth from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
But I think he should be like kind of in an angsty teenage period. He should look like the monkey on the DKC3 ad. That's what he should look like. With all the punk
What,
stuff.
the biker? Yeah, the punk biker.
Yeah, punk kitty.
Not the gyrating orangutan in a blonde wig.
No, not that one. He should be
By the way,
spray painting stuff on Cranky's cabin, saying like he can't even spell, but he's spray painting, and they're like, "Kitty, cut it out!" And he's like,
"Play it loud." Yeah.
He's saying, and then there's captions for everything he says.
Was that commercial? I kind of thought about it back when it aired, and then I pushed it out of my brain. Was that commercial trying to imply that the biker and the gyrating, dancing orangutan were Kitty and Dixie? And was that implying that these cousins...
I'm referring to the print ad. I haven't seen the commercial.
Oh, yeah. Well, the commercial, yeah, you've got a biker.
The print ad where it's like, we got a wild one, or whatever it says.
Yeah, essentially that's just a riff on the...
okay. I need to see that commercial.
Television commercial. Again, pause the podcast and go play it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a biking gorilla, a biker gorilla, and picking up a gyrating lady orangutan.
I think that is what it's supposed to mean.
So yeah, was it implying that Kitty, this badass Kitty Kong, is going to sexually plunder Dixie Kong?
Okay, is that the commercial where they say starring Kitty Kong, like you said?
Starring Kitty Kong. Yeah.
So giving him the benefit of the doubt, that might not have been excluding Dixie for demographic reasons. It could just be playing on the idea that Kitty Kong is in no way a badass. So wouldn't it be funny if we made him look like one in the trailer? I don't know.
No, but see, it's just kind of ambiguous and weird, and I hope that's not what that commercial was implying, because, again, not only is Dixie, like, at least 10 years older than Kitty, but she's his cousin, so I don't want to...
Cam makes a good point. Maybe he did grow into Buster Bluth, but maybe that's why Clapper hasn't reappeared for a reason. Kitty ain't got no hand no mo.
We do need a Kong with a hook for a hand. I mean, we have Crook as a Kremlin.
He could appear in Sea of Thieves.
All right, yeah. I would like to see... Yeah, Nintendo, you're not doing anything with Kitty Kong, right?
Yeah.
Let Rare have him back.
Kitty the Hook, the fearsome pirate lord.
Real quick, let's talk about the Kong helpers in the game. This is the first game where we didn't
Nid,
get...
right?
Shut the fuck up, Nick. This is the first game we didn't get any new Kongs on the map screen. Kitty Kong is a new Kong, but besides that, we didn't get any additions to the Kong family that assist you. You know, Donkey Kong Country 2 introduced Wrinkly and Swanky, but here it's the Donkey Kong Country 2 cast back again. There are new Kong helpers, of course, but we'll get into them in a second. So let's talk about Wrinkly Kong real quick. As we already discussed, she is now retired from school teaching, and she's taken up mall walking. And
where's the mall?
You know, I gotta say, I love this, because she looks just like my grandmother did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Wearing the tracksuit, the pink tracksuit, you know, is trying to stay physically fit. I mean, unlike Wrinkly Kong, my grandmother didn't die a couple years later, but
it sort of says so much about her spirit that even at that age, she's going for it.
Well, and you know, I know, Nick, you have your own Jinx-related theories about how Wrinkly might have died, but
they're not theories; they're truth. But yeah,
it makes you wonder: did she die, you know, in an exercise mishap? Was it like?
Oh, it was an exercise of sorts.
I don't know. Like, did she like use what are those stretchy things that you exercise with your arms with, and
Cranky
you know they can like ricochet back and hit you in the face? Like Harry,
not the one to ask, I gotta say.
Oh yeah, not up on the physical fitness.
Not the terms. I just call them springy wingy. I'm gonna go do the donger for a while.
See, I hike as my exercise, but I don't like go to the gym or anything. So,
you gotta go to the gym, bro. Bro, you gotta go to the gym.
Bro, I don't even lift. I gotta be honest.
Oh, you take it to a meme that quick. Okay.
A Rare fan who was with us to our trip to Rare, Alex Ross, not the DC Comics artist.
Oh, holy shit!
But
okay.
He challenged me in that 22 push-up challenge on Facebook the other day. I got to answer. I got to do it. So I'm just like, all right. How long has it been since I've done a push-up?
Have you written your will yet?
I'm pretty sure I can do it. I'm not that out of shape.
You can do it. I believe in you.
I don't want to end up like Wrinkly Kong and die while exercising.
She could have died while playing N64 for all we know.
That's true. She strangled herself with the cord over that glorified tech demo.
Yeah. Fuck this shit.
She just couldn't go on anymore after the back of Peach's castle didn't exist.
You call this a 3D platformer? I know Banjo, and he's way better.
I'm sure my Kong family can do a better 3D platformer than this.
Don't hold your breath, Wrinkly.
And also Wrinkly, I find it interesting that they also saddled her with the banana birds just to have a visual representation of your banana bird collection.
I like that, though. She's in touch with nature.
Yeah, I like that she found them kind of endearing and she cared after them. She was kind of their surrogate mother.
She's a teacher. It makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. I like that bits of character that Rare added. And this is why I feel like the retro games are lacking in just a little bit when it comes to how economic they are with using the characters. I like that Rare just went all in and put in as many characters as they could fit, because that really did help with the world building and having something as simple as, okay, the banana birds go to Wrinkly's save cave.
They could have just had some tree that they all gather at, or like a counter on this pause menu, but they decided to like really give her more character.
Yeah, it could have been, you just press pause on the map screen, and then in your totals, you see how many banana birds you have. But no, they had an illustrated place where the banana birds gathered once you rescued her. And I loved going to Wrinkly's Save Cave and seeing how many banana birds I had flying around. It made me feel happy.
It's a great game design choice. You're like, oh, finally I can save. And look at all that I've accomplished.
Yeah, it made me happy to see these banana birds reunited together, flying around happily. And by the way, can I say that the save cave is fucking swank as hell? I would live the fuck out of a save cave.
You'd make a real man cave, huh?
No, Nick. Oh. I would make it look like an elderly gorilla lived there.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
I like the lava lamp. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Funky Kong. Let's talk about Funky Kong real quick. He's
taken his engineering to a whole new level.
Yeah, only one Funky Kong on the entire map of this game, similar to Clubba in Donkey Kong Land 2. And this is really where Funky Kong, as we knew him, crystallized. I gotta hand it to the DKC3 team. They are not the original team, but I think Funky Kong's character, as he exists today, is owed the most to them over the way the original team who created him presented him. Granted, he's always going to have a surfer dude inside of him, but this is where Funky Kong kind of grew up and really embraced being the mechanic of the Kong family and really made him an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's really he's grown up. He's gotten responsibilities. When he watches a little baby, he puts it in the cupboard.
We don't know child laws in the Rare Archipelago. I'm sure that's perfectly on the up and up. Child services aren't going to come after him.
So because it's not illegal, it's okay.
They probably come after you. Yeah, they've normalized the behavior, Nick. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They probably come after you if you don't lock a baby in a cupboard.
I'm in trouble,
anyway. Luckily, I'm not. Every cupboard in the house.
Yep.
But yeah, and Funky Kong, I love his look in the game. The ripped jean shorts. That like he made his own jorts in this game.
They're Jinko, bro.
Did I ever tell you the story of how the one time I bought Jinko jeans?
No, go for it.
Yeah, I bought Jinko jeans because Elliot convinced me they were in style.
I think the same thing happened to me with a neighbor. Go ahead.
I wore them to school once, and like within 20 minutes, a girl came up to me and said, "You're not a skater. You need to take those off."
Oh.
And so I never wore them again.
That sucks.
I was humiliated.
Even though that's not it's not the worst thing that can happen to someone. There's certain nuances to that are just scarring for a guy who's trying to find his identity. That's gotta suck.
Yeah, a guy who did not have any faith of himself in junior high. And I didn't even know, I was like, all right, I'm wearing these jeans that are, maybe people will like me because I'm wearing these jeans. That was really sad.
As recently as college, I wore basketball shorts that had like a little logo of like basketball, just simply because they were comfortable and I was lazy. And I was in an art class and there was like a more basketball player looking individual behind me. That's not a racist comment. And he was like,
No.
Yo, you play ball? And I was like, play what? I'm sorry. And he's like, you're shorts, man. And I was like, no. And he's like, yeah. And I was just like, okay. I guess I can't be comfortable.
Yeah, that's why I only wear Diddy Kong t-shirts anymore, and a copious amount of Sea of Thieves shirts, because really, like, that's the only thing I feel comfortable in, as I know I'm accepted into this community.
Yeah. If you were to wear like a polo shirt with a little guy on a horse, someone would be like, "Hey, you're not a jockey. Take that the fuck off. Get out of here."
Yeah, what we need, Nick, are polo shirts with guys riding rhinos.
Oh, not just guys. Apes.
Or monkeys.
Yeah.
I still wear very baggy jeans because I am a 90s kid, but they are not as baggy as Jinko.
Well, plus you got to show on the street, you know, you got to sag that shit, dude. You got to show you're open for port.
I am a helpless 90s kid, but they're comfortable. I don't like tight jeans. I got to let my balls breathe, you know?
It's just the daily possibility that they might just fall off to the floor at any second gives you this weird little excitement.
I know, like, is this the day I'm going to be humiliated in public? Is this the day that reoccurring nightmare will come true? Oh,
I'm putting on my skate shorts.
Of my seat. I'm on the edge of my seat, and so are my jeans.
We got psychoanalytical there.
So Funky, yeah. He really embraces his role as the Q of the Kong clan here, and
minus all the sophistication.
Yeah.
But he's getting there. He's getting there.
Maybe he embraces his role as Q in Donkey Kong 64, but this is an important part of the process.
Yeah.
Swanky Kong is back in his last appearance, and
rest in peace.
Swanky is also had to change his career after Diddy and Dixie blew it up, and now he's running a carnival sideshow. And you know, a lot of people argue what their favorite Swanky clothing option is. Now, I will always prefer him as the game show host, but don't let that make you think that I dislike his bitching. Whoops, I said bitch.
Put a coin in the bitch jar.
Yeah, that's 2 on my my punch card.
Yeah, there you
go. I can only say 3 more.
Yeah.
All right. So, Swanky has that most excellent vest and hat and pimp cane in this game, and I do quite love it. And I think when Swanky Kong comes back, and I say when because I still hold out hope that Retro or Monster or whomever develops the next Donkey Kong game will do right by the fans and put Swanky Kong in it
as the main character.
I hope this is. Oh, I would love. Did I ever tell you? I'm pretty sure I told you. I'm pretty sure this was on a Virtual Boy episode or discussion in the past. But I had a dream one night when the Virtual Boy was released that Swanky Kong was going to get his own Virtual Boy game called Swanky's Virtual Disco or something like that.
Nice.
But this is what he should look like if he comes back. Obviously, it'll be smoothed out. There won't be as many details as per Nintendo's design scheme. But this is the way he should look. This is the definitive Swanky. As much as I might prefer, honestly, the game show look, this is where Swanky Kong grew into the character that we know and love.
I feel like Conga Kong in Banjo-Tooie recalls Swanky Kong from DKC3 a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. He's more of a ringmaster, where this Swanky's more of a seedy fuck.
Yeah, sideshow fuck.
And I find it interesting that he's paired with Cranky Kong, and we already discussed several episodes back that on the Cranky Kong character witness that, you know, Cranky and Swanky might be related. Swanky might be a son of Cranky. So I won't get into that here, but they really did kind of neuter Cranky Kong a bit in this game. He's just really
going around playing games,
which it's a lot more efficient when you think about it, because let's be honest, Cranky's Cabin and the Monkey Museum were kind of pointless in the original SNES Donkey Kong.
They were
Country
there
games.
to add character and texture to the world. That's about it.
They were, and I love that.
Yes.
And I love that. But really, I think the Donkey Kong Country 3 team was pretty forward-thinking in how Retro would take it. And they said, well, let's just not waste space with another, like, Cranky Kong hut where he just gives you advice. We're going to be wasting enough space with the Brothers Bear. Let's instead do something fun with him. And having Cranky, quote-unquote, come out of retirement a little bit and challenge you, it was nice to finally shut him up a bit.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Cranky, you know, makes himself more apparent in the both endings to the game. And he's also up on the wall in the save cave. Wrinkly has a lovely picture of him. So, we got to talk about the Brothers Bear, Nick. But I realize that we've already had the definitive statement on the Brothers Bear in the Kongversation Season 1,
Bears.
Episode 31. Bears, all caps. It was an episode I did with Matt Cornah.
I can't even compete. I thought it was Jeff.
No, it was Matt.
Oh, okay.
You're probably just blacked out over the sheer awesomeness of that episode.
I am. Honestly,
Probably
I'm
the best
still
we ever
reeling.
did.
I apologize, Matt.
So, what I thought I would do, instead of just rehashing all the discussion on the Brothers Bear, I would just simply replay that episode right now.
All right, let's do it.
So, sit back, and this is episode 131 of the Kongversation in its entirety. Bears.
Enjoy.
Granted, I did speed it up.
Oh.
Yeah, I did speed it up by 1,600%. So, here we go. I hope we all learned something from that, and thank you, Matt, for your appearance on this episode.
Oh, this is like a Clockwork Orange. I mean, I'm a new man.
You can't hear classical music anymore without thinking about Bjorn Bear. Real quick, I did want to address just the Brothers Bear as a whole. They're basically there to add context to the map screen and give you something else to do on the map screen. And really, they provide the RPG elements and the
adventure
atmosphere and character of the Northern Hemisphere. This is the civilization of the Northern Hemisphere. And we talked about last week how most of them are just shitty characters with like one gimmick each, even more so than the Kongs, because at least the Kongs had time to develop from game to game. Like Funky Kong was just, oh, he's a Kong who's a surfer guy, but that developed into him being a brilliant mechanic. And then the Q of the Kongs.
Now, I always had a slight inkling that possibly they were inspired by The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening a little bit.
Oh, yeah, how so?
There's a bunch of random, more hidden characters that you find one item that seems useless, and you trade. It's a character will be like, I'll trade you that for this, and then you get that item, then you trade it for another guy. It's like this system of trading throughout the game, and it's very similar the way they. I think that's probably been done in other adventure games, but that's what it always reminded me of.
Yeah, I thought you were going to compare it to Link's Awakening because it turns out it was just one sweet dream.
Well, yeah, they're both
one day.
My favorites of their respective series. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, so the Brothers Bear are kind of joke characters, but again, nobody does shit joke characters like Rare, and that's what makes them endearing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason we at DK Vine are just obsessed with the Brothers Bear to an unhealthy degree. We've got, Bizarre Bear. Look, I'll name them all for, like, you see, I don't have their names in the show notes right here, Nick. You're looking at the show notes. You can verify this. I do not have their names. Mm-hmm. I'm in the show notes with you, so I'm not looking at anything else. Here's the Brothers Bear.
Let's do it.
Off the top of my head. All right. Bizarre Bear, Barnacle Bear, Brash Bear, Baffle Bear, Brigadier Bazooka Bear, Blue Bear, Bramble Bear. There is...
Ooh, I'm sorry,
Barter
you're
Bear,
out of
Ballistic
time.
Bear.
Let's have the...
Shut up! I'm not done.
You don't talk to Alex
Benny
Trebek
Bear,
that
Bjorn
way.
Bear, Baffle Bear, Boomer Bear, and there's Bachelor Bear, but he's in Donkey Kong Country 3 Game Boy Advance.
That's a whole other Spotlight episode.
Did I leave any out, Nick?
Bear.
Shut up. Anyway, I love them. I love them as characters. I really want at least one of them to come back one of these days. And, one of the great mysteries of the Donkey Kong universe that we still don't really have an answer to is in the Donkey Konga series, around the time Donkey Konga 3 was gearing up to be released in Japan, which it never made its way out of Japan, but there were, if you remember the artwork for that game, the promotional artwork that had like Kong characters in kind of cell shaded artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So it was mostly original artwork, but Barnacle Bear appeared around the time of Donkey Konga 3 in this Donkey Konga artwork.
And Ellie was in
released by Nintendo. And Ellie was in the original Donkey Konga. Yeah,
I wouldn't know.
Danced with Rambi. But so we thought Barnacle Bear was going to be a character in Donkey Konga 3. I believe a couple people have played the game here in the West, and they said they can't find Barnacle Bear anywhere in the game. So if you know what the hell this Barnacle Bear artwork from the Donkey Konga series is actually
the truth is out there.
Please give us a call at 128-1410-KONG, because this is the only time that a Brothers Bear character was slated to reappear, and it never came to fruition. So we want to know what the hell is up with that.
Like, just like DKC 3 itself, more mysteries.
If I had any say over the next Donkey Kong Country game, let's say either Retro or Monster makes it, or somebody follows the Retro template, much like Donkey Kong Country 3 was passed off from the team that made the first two, let's say the third Donkey Kong Country game of the new trilogy, Baja Blast, would be passed off to a new team. And let's say I had some sort of ownership over it, and I got to make some decisions. I would have...
The little blob guy?
I would have Barnacle Bear take over the shop in that game. No, Mr. Blobsworth would not appear. Maybe he would appear in a background gag. But I would have Barnacle Bear take over the shop because I feel like there just are not enough bears.
Not Bizarre Bear?
Series anymore. I mean Bizarre Bear, sorry.
Okay.
Too many bears on my brain right now.
Too many bears.
I just listened to episode 131, Bears, once again.
Getting shot in the dark.
But by the way, Nick, I should ask this of you: which Brothers Bear is best?
Bear.
I'm not inviting you on the next episode. You're sitting out for a couple weeks, Nick, in the corner.
Bjorn's pretty cool.
In the cupboard.
He kind of epitomizes what the game is all about.
Ski lifts?
Well, he's the one in the lederhosen, right?
Yeah, you really get off on this Germanic vibe from the game. I really want to know why, Nick. Why did the German elements of Donkey Kong Country 3 appeal to you so much?
I don't know. I'm just, some games deep within the code, they all kind of have their own genes, you know what I mean? And some are just more, stronger stock than others, and maybe we should round up all the good games and, Well, that's just a pipe dream, though.
Maybe Dixie Kong's Double Trouble referred to both Hitler and Stalin.
Maybe. We already had one genocide in the series. Why not another?
We already know the Kongs have been to war with Japan for not being fresh enough.
Oh, that's true.
Timely references there. World War II.
Jungle Beat.
All right. The animal buddies, Nick. Let's talk about the animal buddies.
All right, so Nid.
Get off the Nid thing. You are going to... I'm going to force you to sit in a cupboard for the next couple of weeks.
Aww.
Like Kiddy Kong, to think about what you
turn
did.
into a little pink ball. Giggle.
Pink flesh that rolls.
All right, animal buddies. I apologize.
So, the returning animal buddies in the game... Shockingly to a lot of people, Rambi was not in this game. And I loved that. I loved how ballsy that was. Because Rambi was kind of what everybody thought of when they thought of Animal Buddy. I mean, look at Retro. He's the only rideable animal buddy they really use.
How's Rambi going to get over there?
Well, how? Okay, so there's Engard. Engard can swim.
Yeah, makes sense.
Obviously.
Squawks can fly.
Squitter, I guess he's
a little
web his way over the ocean.
Yeah.
Sure,
we've seen him do it.
There's also Quawks and Squawk.
Fly.
The purple parrots are back, and which I love that they're back because the DKC3 team did not have the DKC3 team. Try saying that 5 times fast.
DKC3 team. Oh my gosh.
They did not have to bring back the purple parrots from Parachute Panic in this game.
They did.
And they did. They did. Now, granted, I mean, we don't know if both back. We know at least one is back. They appear in 2 stages in this game, and we'll get into that when we discuss the stages the next 2 weeks. But I like to think that one stage is Squawks and one stage is Squawk. It's only diplomatic and fair. And yeah, but Rambi was not in this game. And you're right. How would he get over there? Granted, how would they really get over to Crocodile Isle? I guess that's closer. They can make the swim there. But how did Rambi get on the Tropical Freeze Islands, though?
I don't know. Then you get into the whole thing of, like, even Rare themselves would probably admit that, like, Rambi is both a singular character and a species, like, depending on how they
Shut your
meet
whore
it.
mouth.
Well, I'm not saying it's definitely a species. I think there is, when I say Rambi, I think of one rhino. But then my logic systems tell me that, well, of course you could be on Kremling Isle or Crocodile Isle because it was just another Rambi.
The only time I would argue we've seen species of animal buddies are the ostrich races in Donkey Kong Country 2 Game Boy Advance. And, of course, Donkey Kong Racing was going to feature a whole plethora of animal steeds based on the animal buddies, as well as featuring the singular animal buddies. But it wasn't going to be like the Rambi class. It was going to be hopefully the Rhino class, you know. And of course, there was the hologram of Engard in Donkey Kong Country.
Of course.
So, but yeah, Rambi was not in this game. That's kind of unthinkable. You know, Retro kind of has relied on Rambi as a crutch. He's what most people think of, because a lot of people, when they think of Donkey Kong Country, well, they played the first stage in the first game, so they know of Rambi.
He's
Here,
really
Rambi is
the horn they hang their hat on, so to speak.
So to speak. So they chucked one pachyderm for another, though. And they introduced Ellie, the baby elephant, in this game.
A northbound pachyderm this time.
Yeah. I love Ellie. Ellie's great. And, you know, I think it's a shame that Donald Trump's sons murder elephants and then embrace elephants as the symbol of their political party.
Yeah, what are they, dentists? Come on.
But, you know, hopefully they'll never get their mitts on Ellie, or their Mitt Romneys on Ellie. Am I right? Timely humor. Give you a high five, Nick. So Ellie is also the first canonical female animal buddy, which I love the girl power in this game. You got Dixie and you got Ellie.
Wait, did you just assume Engard's gender, Hyle?
Engard has been referred to as a male.
Oh, okay. You're good. You're safe.
The only other animal buddy that might be female, it's Orko from Jungle Beat.
Yes. Although it ends in an O, so probably not.
Yeah, but also I think the naming conventions for that game are fucked up in general.
Yeah, they were just He-Man fans anyway.
Europe had different names for them, and it was just anyway. Yeah, that is a He-Man character. You're right. I don't know. I don't know why that made me stop dead in my tracks, but I was like, yes.
I don't know. I apologize for that.
I remember that. South Park!
I remember.
South Park. Oh, South Park.
I don't know how to
South
roll
Park.
with this particular facetious bit because I actually like the show.
I don't begrudge anybody who likes South Park. I honestly, I haven't watched it in a few years. I honestly
consider South Park the Beatles of animation, and let me explain this.
I consider the Beatles cartoon to be the Beatles of animation.
That's a good point, except it wasn't voiced by the fucking Beatles. The South Park's the Beatles of animation because when the Beatles started, they were playing their little dive bars, playing the shuffle, whatever the fuck they called it.
They're playing the shuffle. They're playing the shuffleboard. Yeah,
whatever they called that fucking
Skiffle.
music. It's
Skiffle. You're the musician, man. I'm not a musician.
Skiffle is not a term that is used very often anymore, but the early South Park episodes are the equivalent of skiffle music in a dive bar. You're like, okay, this is shittily animated and the humor is for 11-year-olds. So when I first saw it or was exposed to it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so not for me. Sort of the same reason I was turned off by Conker and Beavis and Butthead when I was like 9. But as you grow up...
Vine.
And DK Vine. Oh, I wasn't turned off. My parents just had a talk with me. But anyway... But as I feel Trat and May, so to speak, or Matt and Trey, got matured themselves, it became more of a topical show. And I'm preaching to the choir because everyone knows this. But the way now that they within seconds of a news story can create an entire story arc about it and be so usually spot on.
Oh yeah,
and rebelliously fair in lampooning both sides with such a sharp wit, despite, like, you look past all the crude humor and bad animation, and it's a really smart show.
I respect that. I do respect the hell out of their work ethic and how they're able to churn out. They live dangerously with each and every episode.
Yes, and I'm not a diehard dyed-in-the-wool fan. I just really respect it. I like to catch up on it because, especially in times like these, I find their takes on stuff to be pretty comforting.
What turned me off was it was probably 5 to 8 years ago at this point. Every episode ending with heavy moralizing and every
the
side
music
sucks.
cues and everything. Yeah,
everything sucks except the way Trey Parker, see it. And
I see how you're saying. Yeah.
So and like the whole both sides are shit. Like that, I feel like that's led to an intellectual lazy standpoint for smart people to take to sound smarter. Oh, both sides are equally bad.
Yeah,
I hold myself
South Park
above
Republicans
everything. Yeah, and I feel like that leads to situations like, I don't know, the current political shitstorm we're in.
Yeah, let's not get too far into it, but all I'm saying is, good show. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I respect it. If I'm not a fan, I'm a fan of some episodes, but not enough to go out of my way to seek out each and every episode. So.
Sure, and there are definitely entire seasons I would avoid probably, but
I just like to give Chad shit about it because he's a fan, and it's fun to get into fights with your friends. So yeah, Ellie is also cool because like Squitter, she shoots projectiles, but unlike Squitter, she has a limited reserve of them. She has to suck up the water.
Sure does.
She can also suck barrels to her trunk, which is useful because then that way you can have an animal buddy but still use the projectiles provided to you. You don't have to disembark. So
I love using Ellie.
Yeah, Ellie is a character I wish would make a resurgence. Of course, I would like to see her aged up as well and just have her be a massive elephant at this point. You could just trample people. Perry the Parallel Bird.
Never heard of her.
This character sucks.
Yeah, so let's move on.
Actually, it's a him, Nick. Perry is canonically male.
Oh, damn, I've been thinking it was a girl. It's got eyelashes. Like long eyelashes.
Guys
don't
can
it?
have Richard Alpert from Lost, man.
Good point. I think I've even referenced that before. Or is that the eyeliner
joke?
Yeah, the
guyliner joke. Yeah. So Perry is the first animal buddy that's a completely fictional species, and
it looks like a bird of paradise.
I mean, a parallel bird. You got me. That's just the DKC3 team being weird, but. If these games do take place on this hidden archipelago off the coast of Africa and Europe, then why can't you have animal species unique to them? We already have them in Kremlins. I mean, Kremlins are not crocodiles. They are crocodile men, their own unique species. So why can't you have parallel birds?
You can, in fact.
I wouldn't like to see this thing, every day in Donkey Kong games because I like them to be based for the most part on real nature, but every now and then it's fine. And Perry it's very unique in that Perry has no tactical advantage as an animal buddy. It is an animal buddy that you're constantly on the defense for, because the goal is to get Perry to the no animal sign at the end of the stage to get your reward. And sometimes these rewards are required for, at the very least, the 103% completion at the end of the game.
Indeed.
So I don't know. Perry's one of those characters that DK Vine has embraced and made jokes about for years, and as a result, our audience also embraced and makes jokes about. And I love Perry, just like the Brothers Bear. If you are a fan of the Brothers Bear or Perry the Parallel Bird, you're all right with me. And
hell yeah,
it's kind of like a calling card at this point between the fans, And real quick, we've already talked about them, but I want to address them again. The banana birds. You want to talk about weird fictional birds? Well, here you go. What are your thoughts on the banana birds, Nick?
They're no nid. So we're not going to read my thing on Nid.
This is the DKC3 team just be completely fucking weird. But here's the thing. We know that the Greg Mayles and Chris Sutherland crew were planning Banana Birds for Donkey Kong Country 2. So in actuality, the blame cannot be placed squarely on the shoulders of the DKC3
Blame?
team.
More like praise. I love the Banana Birds.
I meant blame for those cynics out there who don't like the art design of this game, or don't like this, or don't like that, or think it's inferior to the first two games. I love this game. I love the characters. No blame is coming from me, my friend.
If you don't want a game with Banana Birds, you have two great games to go play. This is the one with Banana Birds in it.
To be fair, you have every video game in existence besides this game.
No, they're actually in
3,
most other games.
Game
you just
Boy
can't see
Advance,
them.
and Donkey Konga. They're in Donkey Konga too. Did you know that? Donkey Konga, the first Donkey Konga,
wow.
as well. So, yeah, I always, it cracks me up that Namco, when they were planning Donkey Konga, must have just played Donkey Kong Country 3 for research, because they.
I have to check out Donkey Konga now, I think.
They put Ellie in it. They put the Banana Birds in it.
I never knew that.
Yeah. I actually don't mind the first Donkey Konga game. It's Donkey Konga 2 that I.
Does it have Good Charlotte in it, or is that the second one?
That's the second one. So, yeah. Donkey Konga 2 is the bane to my Batman, where the first Donkey Konga, just a mild nuisance, like, I don't know, Kite Man.
Yeah. Calendar Man.
Calendar Man, yeah.
The second one broke you.
The Rat Catcher, Crazy Quilt.
The Allergist.
Is that a real Batman villain?
Yes, the most obscure I can think of.
Let's see. There is Condiment King. That's a good one.
Killer Moth, although that's not so obscure.
Yeah, people know Killer Moth because Killer Moth is the quintessential shitty Batman villain.
Yeah, it was the first one that Batgirl ever fought, and she just kicked his ass.
And then he became an actual moth in the 1995 crossover Underworld Unleashed.
And that's where I think the Allergist is related too, somehow.
Really?
Yeah.
He was eventually ripped in half in Infinite Crisis and murdered, but he's since come back, I think, with the New 52, and he's just Killer Moth again.
Whatever happened to Amygdala?
Yeah, he was in Nightfall, and that's the last I really remember him.
Him and the ventriloquist teamed up for a while. It was very weird.
Yeah, the ventriloquist.
It's like a Rain Man sort of situation.
Ventriloquist died in 2006, I think. And then
Did
there was
Scarface find a new owner?
Yeah, there were like different ventriloquists after that point with Scarface, but I think the original ventriloquist is back now. It's very confusing.
But anyway.
The New 52 is finally caught up with Batman, where Batman continuity is just a jumbled mess now. But thankfully, hopefully Rebirth will reset everything proper.
One can only hope.
Well, that was your Batman tangent for the week. Yeah. Banana Birds. Yeah, they're weird. We're going to be discussing the Queen Banana Bird when we get into the end of the game in part 4. So I don't really want to broach that topic quite yet. But yeah, the Banana Birds, I love them. Again, the Brothers Mail Sutherland crew from the first two games actually did plan for Banana Birds and other banana animal creatures to be in the second game. More as banana collectibles, you would kind of have to hunt down, like chase, kind of like the banana sprites from the retro games.
Or the Ghost Riders from the upcoming Ukulele.
Yeah, although they're more inspired by Jinjos, I think.
Sure, but you didn't have to chase Jinjos.
True. But they cut that idea from the game. It was just on like Post-it notes, I think. And
a lot of the designs were in Post-it notes, which is awesome. Yeah.
By the way, I am living off Post-it notes now. DK Vine, I am now planning all of my DK Vine projects via Post-it note. And
I've seen. It's impressive.
It's an efficient system. Although I still have a Post-it note up here that says Hall of Fame 2016 finale. Delegate to Matt. Give November 8th. We'll get to that eventually.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that eventually. So anyway, the Banana Birds, again, maybe too weird for the previous team, but DKC3 team made it work. So DKC3 team, DKC3 team, DKC3 team, DKC3
Give me a big old steaming bowl of weird. I want to just lap it up.
So, Nick, let's talk about the enemies. The Kremlin crew of Donkey Kong Country 3.
I guess one would have to start with Ned.
You're going to wait on your goddamn Nid, and you're going to like it. So, here's what I want to do with the Kremlin crew. In our show notes, I did provide you with the artwork for every single enemy.
Which is very helpful.
Game.
I love looking at these guys.
And the artwork, this is something you really want to discuss because you are a musician, as I mentioned, but you are also an artist. An artiste.
Oh, I hate that word, but sure, yeah, I am.
An artiste. You know what I hate?
Content creator.
You know what I hate? When a shop is spelled SHOPPE.
Oh,
Shoppy.
Fuck those cookies, dude. The fudge
I also
shoppy.
Yeah, I also hate when a, let's say, restaurant or shop is referred to as the blank at name of city here.
Oh, so, yeah. The Pizza Hut at Chicago or whatever.
I hate faux pretension. See,
you know what I hate? When a restaurant is not separated according to class and race.
We already know you like the Germanic themes in this game, Nick. You can chill with it. No, I'm pretty liberal, but if there's one thing I hate, it's liberals because
absolutely
they drive me up the fucking wall with their faux pretension and just crawl at your ass and like what you want to like.
To quote Matt Parker and Trey Stone, I believe they said. I believe they said.
Guys, I was thinking today.
Yeah.
I was going to do a South Park monologue, but go ahead.
You could do that. Or I could just quote them what they actually said, which is, we fucking hate conservatives, but we really fucking hate liberals.
I'm liberal with my political beliefs, but I don't shop at Whole Foods because it fucking just crawls up my butt.
Well, that's the thing. There's a difference between radicals. Like, radical anything is always bad.
Yeah, well, and it's also because I'm comfortable in my own skin at this point. I'm Hyle from off of DK Vine. I like Donkey Kong and Rare and Platonic.
You have no agenda, nothing to prove. You're not trying to be pretentious.
I love everybody, and so long as they love each other in return. And they like Donkey Kong and Rare and Platonic.
Love everybody.
Wait, what song was that?
I think it was a Presidents of the United States of America.
Don't sing it, because then YouTube will... Okay, you know what? Just walk away slowly. I thank you for not singing any good... I wonder how playing Good Charlotte on Donkey Konga 2 will affect my streams when I put them up on YouTube.
Well, I think they block out any Good Charlotte, even the mention of it, which they should.
But they don't do that for copyright reasons. They just do that for good taste.
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, so you provided the artwork, and I love these guys.
Because you are an artist, and the art in Donkey Kong Country 3, mostly by Mark Stevenson, intrigues you. And what's intriguing to me is the Kremlins in this game, the baddies in general, the Kremlin crew, if you want to use the generalized term, they're all new. And
they're all utter crimes against nature. And I love it.
Yeah, you would, because your art is kind of weird. Donkey Kong Country 2 brought back a lot of baddies. Granted, they would, sometimes give them new names and new garb, but Clomp was clearly supposed to be Critter with a peg leg. Cannon was clearly Clump holding a
this
cannon.
brings up the reason I think the heart of why this game appeals so much to me. Every boss is a unique, cool, huge, uniquely designed boss. They didn't do the retread thing in DKC 1. And every enemy is not just a recolor of some old enemy. It's like, even though it was a new team, they didn't rest on their laurels of previous assets. They didn't. We're going all out.
Say what you want about the game itself, and I would say you're wrong if you're saying this is a bad game, because this is a great game.
Of course.
But the Donkey Kong Country 3 team, you can't accuse them of being lazy, because they certainly weren't. No. Because they didn't even bring back zingers.
They had a vision that was very unique and very specific.
Yeah, now granted, a lot of these new characters are just swap outs for old ones.
Oh yeah, but that's what you do in a platformer sequel. But they're not just recolors; they're whole new beasts.
to be fair, a lot of snowmads are swap outs for the tikis who are swap
Exactly.
outs for the Kremlings. So
Exactly.
I don't want to hear this argument that Retro doesn't want to use the Kremlings because they want to create their own enemies. You can create your own enemies as Kremlings. Kremlings are very versatile. You don't need to bring in Critter.
Look
and
at
Clump
DKC3.
and
These
Kreshko.
Kremlings are nothing like the past ones.
Exactly. So Kremlings, it's not like Mario where you'll have a couple new enemies, but you got to have Goombas, you got to have Koopa Troopas. You can go Super Mario Brothers 2 with it too. You know, granted that's a bad analogy because that would be more like the Tiki Tak tribe replacing the Kremlings or the Snowmads. But you know, you can shake it up. So let's go through these one by one.
All right.
And we'll see what you think, and I'll give my thoughts as well.
Sure.
So Cobble is the kind of main Kremling drone in the game,
Yeah.
the replacement of Critter. And
He's green.
he's green, and he is also stark naked. And a lot of the baddies in this game are just nude.
Well, the first ever Critter just had a belt, right?
Well, he had the shoulder pads.
Okay.
And
Did he have a belt?
The thing, God, I'm gonna have to look up a Critter now, aren't I? Let me look up a
Might
Critter.
be thinking of a Battletoad.
Well, the thing is, Critters have had so many clothing and wardrobe changes over the years that it's actually... I keep thinking about their leather jackets, which did have belts in Donkey Kong 64, and their modern designs.
This would be a question for Cameron.
Yeah, the original Critter... let's see, bringing it up here. They did not have belts. They had knee pads.
And shoulder pads.
And shoulder pads, yes.
Okay.
So
they weren't fully nude, but pretty much.
The original Donkey Kong Country, the enemy, at least the main Kremlings, kind of had a militarized theme. You know, they wore camo or helmets.
Yeah.
Country 2 obviously was pirates. Country 3, they're just nudists. I don't know, like.
Yeah.
And
there is more mechanical enemies than ever, but they don't really blend that with the Kremlings as much.
yeah, the whole theme of this is basically just a new batch of Kremlings, and
It's industry versus nature, really.
they don't really look like crocodiles that much either. They look more like... Well, what would you describe the Cobble
What's that
as?
one alligator that's like a caiman, gavial or something? What's that name?
Yeah, I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, it has a more
and
thin, long snout.
Yeah. They definitely have the longer snouts. They're thinner, and they have big lips.
Yeah,
And they also
I would call the word that comes to mind with all the enemies in this game is lumpy. They're all kind of lumpy.
Well, lumpy and lanky. Not
Yes.
Lanky Kong, but just like... They're kind of like Jar Jar Binks-esque.
Well, let's not get carried away.
A little bit more muscular, but yeah. And what's the deal with the ridges around Cobble's eyes? Like, are they supposed to be scaly, like...
Yeah,
eyebrows?
they're like eyebrows essentially, scaly
All right,
versions.
maybe they use guy liner like Richard Alpert
Yeah.
from off of Lost.
And Perry.
Well, you mentioned there's not many recolors, but there is a recolor of Cobble, and that
Sure,
is...
what I meant is recolors of past game characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You're allowed to
But-
recolor within your own game, but just don't go crazy with it.
Right. There's Skidda, who is essentially a purple Cobble. It's interesting. Skidda doesn't really have an analog in past Donkey Kong games. What they
No.
did was they put the Cobbles in the snow levels in this game.
They have them all slipping and sliding everywhere.
Yeah, they basically made them more unpredictable, sliding around.
Bumbling buffoons.
As you might, usually the terrain in these ice and snow levels affect you, the player, but they don't affect the enemies.
That's a good point.
Here, they affect the enemies, like Skidda, to a absurd level, more so than they affect you.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I like that. That's kind of a neat idea. That hasn't really been done too much or at all in games like this. So yeah, I like it. Recoil, he's got a different design than Cobble, but these are the orange replacements for Kaboings and the jumping critters from the first game.
Yes. But look at those eyes. He's like cross-eyed, his tongue's hanging out.
Yeah, he looks, again, not all there mentally.
Yeah.
But I think these were based on Tigger from Winnie the Pooh.
Ah, yes, I think I've heard you say that before.
I mean, they bounce on their tail. It's kind of like a springy tail, and they look dopey, granted, but I love Recoil, and I think the DKC3 team loved Recoil
Didn't
too
he come
because
back?
they were planning on bringing him back in Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
And if you break into the game, you'll find his model hiding in there.
You know what
But
these
they never
remind me
used
of? Weirdly, is the Space Jam Monstars.
Really?
Yeah, like look at the color
like
of
all the Kremlins in the game, or
no, just like, or at least Recoil, like the texture of his orange skin and just the fact he's lumpy and not very. It doesn't look mentally all there. Kind of looks like one of them.
Well, Space Jam was from '96 too. It just celebrated its 20th anniversary,
Wow.
so
You never know.
something was in the water. I think I know what it was, baby. It was me. It was me, Bill Clinton. I was jerking off in the water supply.
I made
All
a
of
little
America
water
was drinking
stain.
it up.
Made a water
Not just
stain.
America. I went overseas to the UK. I was like, hey, Tony Blair, try this water. I'm not going to tell you what's in it, but it's going to make you draw monsters that are scaly and orange. I guarantee it.
That was the best Clinton ever.
I'm sad for many reasons about the results of the election, but none more so than I won't be able to trot that out every week without reason. So,
I mean, who's more fitting of their title? Is Trump fitting of the term president more than Clinton is fitting of the term gentleman? You never
I know. How am I going to do a Melania Trump impression? Hey, everybody, I'm Melania Trump. How you doing? I'm from Slovenia. I like the boobies. I got them. I look down at them. I pose nude with them. I jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it.
Pictures of the First Lady completely nude are readily available at your fingertips at all times.
I don't know what to do because I am her, but I like looking at them. Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at them. All right.
Melania.
That's good. Replacing Claptrap is Crimp.
Little old
And-
crimp.
Actually, I say replacing Claptrap, also replacing Clamp-On from the previous game. Claptraps are the only
Speaking of
reoccurring
Dixie
enemy.
becoming a woman, she could have used a clamp on in this one, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to use a crimp down there.
Ugh. Gotta crimp that
So,
up.
Claptraps were outright replaced in Donkey Kong Country 2, one of the few enemy archetypes who just didn't get a pyramidal makeover. So it's not a big deal that Clamp-Ons were replaced with Crimps. Crimps, they've got the spiked dog collars. That's a detail that's not really noticeable on the sprites, but it's there on the render. And there's also a render. I didn't include this in the show notes for you, Nick, but the classic render of Crimp. He's drooling from the mouth with a long bead of drool coming off his teeth.
It's delicious.
So these are more dog-like.
Yeah,
but
he's
they're
got a
still
little studded
supposed-
collar and everything.
And again, these don't really look like crocodiles. They look...
It looks like the dog from Dream. The body.
A little bit.
Look at the body's proportions.
The body, yeah. But what really strikes me is the Mark Stevenson influence. You know what these look like? Our favorite ukulele character, Retrosaurus 64 Dreamcast.
Engage.
Engage. So, yeah, that it's clearly Mark Stevenson driving them away from the more crocodilian looks of the traditional Kremlins.
Yeah.
And I like that they don't necessarily look like crocodiles because, again, Kremlins are not crocodiles. They're crocodile men.
They're Kremlings.
So why can't they look a little different? Why can't there be different varieties that don't really look like traditional Kremlins?
Exactly.
I like that they're a little weirder in this game, and I will defend them to the death. I will die for my right to like a cobble over a critter sometimes.
Hell yeah.
Sometimes. So let's talk about the game's boob guy.
Oh, you mean...
I call them boob guys.
Rumple?
I don't know if... I probably brought this up. So Crusha, who became Cruncha in Donkey Kong Country 2.
As a kid, you called him Boob Guy.
Boob guys, because they were guys with massive pecs. And you could bounce into them, and you could bounce right off of them. I like to bounce off the
Oh,
boobies
here
too,
we go.
man. All right, I'm done. That's enough. That's enough, Billy Boy, for this episode.
Billy Boy.
So we got Crumple in this game, which makes him sound less tough than Cruncha or even Crusha.
Sounds like a crumpled up jacket on the floor.
Or yeah, oh, this guy's gonna take a piece of paper and he's gonna crumple it. Watch out. Crumple, I call him the game's boob guy because he's got the big Fabio pecs, but he doesn't really have the defined pectoral muscles as Crusher does. He's got more scaly kind of... it's weird. They look like abs all up his chest.
Yes, it's very odd.
He also has very bumpy skin. He looks like he's got some sort of skin disease.
Once again, lumpy.
But he's got luscious lips. He looks very kissable, I gotta say.
Yep.
I can see why people don't like these art designs. I like them personally.
Me too.
I know
them.
you do, because you like weirder designs. But if you're drawn to the Donkey Kong Country series because it's not that far off, it's got that realistic tint to it, then I can see why these would be a little bit garish.
Sure. You got to be more into this sort of surreal absurdity.
But as I'm going to get into at the end of the episode here, when we discuss the change in teams, I think it's okay by the time you have a third entry in a series to kind of get a little looser.
Of course.
And kind of get a little weird with it. So long as it's not the defining chapter, so long as you're not saying having a trilogy where the story itself is completely wrapped up in a third one. Because, Donkey Kong's an ongoing story. So it's okay that it's a little bit off left field. Same thing for Donkey Kong Land. That was okay that it got a little weirder because it was a portable counterpart to the main console game. So, Clobbers and Kabooms had replacements in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And so Clobber is an iconic Donkey Kong enemy at this point. But I wouldn't say Naka is that iconic.
I was about to say he might be my favorite enemy in the game.
So instead of just having a Kremlin hide in a barrel as camouflage, they were a lot more overt with it in this game. Instead, they had the Kremlin stayed in the barrel at all times. His feet and arms were out of the barrel, and his eyes were looking through a little glory hole. and
they painted a mouth on it. It's so creative.
Underneath the glory hole is a painted mouth. Yeah, it's a very creative art design, even if it is kind of form over function.
Yeah. But I'm wondering, that guy in there must be so not terrifying that he needs to rely on this to scare his prey.
Or he's such a deviant that he gets off being in this barrel. And also the barrel itself is painted green, but I love the level of detail Rare puts in it that it's not painted completely, and you can see the brown underneath it. They did a rush job painting on it, and or maybe it's peeling a bit. I don't know.
Either way, it looks awesome.
Clasp replaces Kaboom, and he is in a TNT barrel. Inside the TNT barrel, much the same way Naka is, but instead of Kaboom, who was on ground, Clasp is exclusively on ropes. So, horizontal ropes.
He stays in that barrel.
He's got to have pretty good arm strength. This, he passes the presidential physical fitness.
Wouldn't the barrel fall downwards off of him?
Class. Maybe he's friction. He's holding it on with his feet,
maybe.
Holding his feet outward, or maybe he's got shoes at the bottom of the barrel that are glued to the barrel. It's a good question, though. I've never really considered that, and it's odd that I never considered it, considering I think about these games day and night.
I don't know. You may have met someone that thinks about DKC3 a little more. I'm just kidding. Of course not.
There's also going to be another version of Clasp that will be more similar to Kaboom called Kraka, who is going to be the on-ground version. He did eventually appear in the Game Boy Advance version, though, but he was actually planned for this SNES version.
I like when they do that.
But it was ultimately unused. Yeah, I'm glad they brought him back. Kachuka is a more original variation on this. He is a Kremlin in a purple barrel.
I take it as Kachuka, like he's chucking the bombs.
Kachuka. Fuck, you're right. I always called him Kachuka, and I was like, I don't know what that name means, but okay.
I mean, it's spelled like Kachuka, but I think Chuka is what they're going for.
Kachuka. Sounds like a racial slur. Of course you would like it because you like the Germanic.
Of course.
Names.
Bloody Kachukas need to stay in their lane.
Well, Kachuka stays in his barrel, but
Yeah,
he does lob bombs from that barrel. And I think he only appears in one stage, right? Like Pothole Panic or
I think so.
Or one of those stages. But yeah, he throws bombs, and it's rare that you see bombs in these games that are not like TNT barrels or some other form of explosive. So
they're just classic bombs, cartoon bombs.
Yeah, it's more of a Mario convention, but yeah, Kachuka. I have to retrain my brain after 20 years now.
Yeah.
Kachuka.
Well, it also rhymes with Bazooka, who's another character, Kachuka, so I could see why you would think that.
Maybe that was it. Man, I'm going to miss Kachuka, though. I like saying Kachuka was so
fuck
fun to say.
Say Kachuka.
Kachuka. That's how I sneeze.
There we
go. Right. Well, we got to talk about, I think, a lot of people's favorite Kremlin in the game, and that's Coin.
Love Coin.
So, we're not going to get into the hero coin versus DK coin naming debate.
Yeah, and the mechanics of getting the coin did lessen a bit in DKC3 as far as challenge. But
I like they tried
there's still a
something
puzzly challenge to it that's really fun.
I think they don't hold up upon repeat playing, because once you figure out how to score the DK coin, once you solve the puzzle, you know it. Whereas playing DKC2 again, you will legitimately forget where the hero coin is hidden.
But if you wait a couple of years to go to DKC3, I have a bad memory for stuff like that, so it's still fresh every time.
See, for me, it doesn't matter how long it's been. I can replay DKC3 or watch a walkthrough of it. I actually just rewatched Chad's involuntary twitching.
Yes, did I?
Playthrough on YouTube, so check it out. But I watched the whole thing, and quite enjoyable. But I knew how to get every single hero coin off of coins in the game. It should be pointed out for those of you who are weird and have never played Donkey Kong Country 3, but just listen to the conversation as background noise, that Coin is a Kremlin wearing a bucket over his head, like the whole family of Nakas. He has a glory hole for his eyes, but he does have and his mouth. His mouth is going through the glory hole. He has a skull and crossbones, not a Kremlin Jolly Roger, but just the standard skull and crossbones painted on the bucket, and he's holding a trash can with the hero coin wedged inside of it. I like how ad hoc this like uniform is. It's like there's no budget for Kremlin.
I actually think that the DK coin is painted on the lid like haphazardly, like all the other paint jobs. But then when you beat him, he just gives you the coin. I think
on the render, that's the way it looks. Yeah. In game, it's wedged in.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Because once
I take it back.
Yeah. So coin's awesome, and
folks just call him Buckethead.
It should be pointed out too that coin necessitated the return of steel kegs after an absence in Donkey Kong.
Oh, you're right. Not since 1.
Yeah, and I love the steel kegs from the original, so it was thrilling to see them back. And it also gave me hope that any elements that didn't come back from Donkey Kong Country into Donkey Kong Country 2 would someday have a chance of returning, like Candy Kong or Winky and Espresso. And we got them back in various forms over the years, but. Yeah, so Coin, you have to figure out how to get the steel keg behind Coin and have it roll into his back and then liberate the DK coin from him.
It's fun.
But he'll always be facing you with his trash can lid.
Yeah.
So you have to find a way to get the steel keg behind
It's almost like a boo or something.
Yeah, a little bit. So, coin was a clever idea. It doesn't hold up as well as just hiding the hero coins. But again, I like that they didn't take the lazy way out and just put hero coins in the game. They actually put some effort into it. There's a variation of coin called Coin Dozer who appear in a stage, and they are purple and they don't have hero coins. They just try to push you off a ledge with their trash can lid.
How rude.
Yeah. I like that they saw this enemy archetype and they said, we can do a little bit more with that. Let's try that. Of course, that speaks also to the fundamental design philosophy of Donkey Kong Country 3, which we'll be getting into the next 2 episodes, which is how most stages have to have a gimmick. And we'll get into the controversies and, the I guess, defenses of that philosophy. Bazooka is, oddly enough, one of the only Kremlins that doesn't begin with a K. There's recoil, but I think the emphasis on the coil justifies that. But Bazooka, besides the K,
Maybe
the
he's
end,
not a Kremling.
He's a Kremling.
Yeah, he's a Kremling.
He's just as much of a Kremling as any of these other weirdos in this game.
True. He looks really awesome, and man, that's a big gun.
That's a big cannon, yeah. And bazookas traditionally shoot out, I think, barrels usually, and sometimes steel kegs, which can be used then to defeat coin in a stage. But yeah,
now I know. I notice you don't have a picture of Crosshair here.
Well, we'll get into Crosshair.
Oh, okay.
Bazooka, Crosshair might be a bazooka. He might also be something else.
He might also be a robot thingy.
Or a carbine.
Carbine?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the robot thing. We'll get into that.
We definitely got to bring up, because that guy's awesome.
Bazooka, he's actually not in function, but in form. He's kind of this game's version of the small Kremling with the ludicrously large weapon.
Yes.
Which is a reoccurring staple in Donkey Kong games from 2 onwards. Whether they carry big swords, or big or kasha, the ones that carry the big club with spikes in them,
or a big old cannon for what's his name?
What is his name?
Isn't there one that has a big old cannon? Cannon?
Bazooka.
Oh yeah, no
Bazooka.
Cannon.
But Cannon is a big fat dude.
Yeah, I'm just saying they all... Oh, I see what you're saying. Little guys with big guns.
Little Kremlings who are overcompensating to a great degree. Yeah, Bazooka's cool. He's also red. I like that they mixed up the color patterns so starkly in this game, because you would have shades of critters and crushas and crunchas, but in this game you really had like vibrant color differences between the Kremlings. One original, or I should say 2 original Kremlings in this game that didn't have an analog in past games were Cuff and Clout, the Kremling twins, who look somewhat homoerotic in one of the renders.
You can tell it's the same team who created Scoff and Trough.
A little bit. They got big pot bellies, and they wear leather gloves and nothing else.
Oh,
and
they
like to hug each other.
So, good. You know that there was nuance to, or hidden meaning to that.
I wouldn't put it past any team at Rare, quite honestly.
I love them, though.
And, Cuff and Cloud, basically, they worked in tandem, and they were hard to get around. They would jump over each other and use different attack patterns.
Their chins are testicles, essentially.
Their chins are Jay Leno chins.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
You hear about Cuff and Clout? You hear about Cuff and Clout?
You hear about Cuff and Cloud? Oh, well, why are they wearing those leather gloves? Oh, I think something funny is going on there, if you know what I mean.
I wear leather gloves when I turn on my car. I like cars.
Oh, did you hear about Bill Clinton? He's in the news. Oh, yeah. Apparently he's been jizzing in the water, and we're all drawing orange monsters as a result. I don't understand it, but, that's politics. Well, stay tuned for Conan. I'm going to go back to my car collection now. I like denim shirts.
I mean, if you're saying that there's a possibility they could be gay and they look like Jay Leno, well, they should. No, I think they're supposed to be
brothers. I think they're supposed to be brothers.
Oh, okay.
And
so incestuous,
touchy-feely brothers, but brothers nonetheless. Hey, as we've already established in the conversation, as we've already established on this show, Americans love some incest porn. Apparently.
Oh yeah, good point.
Copter. Let's talk about Copter. He's another, I guess, original enemy. He's wearing a helmet, a crash helmet. He's got a backpack, and he's got two propellers that he uses to fly up and down.
In the sprite, I always thought he was holding like a mechanized propeller, but he's just holding 2 like oars, facing them in different direction, and I guess just flapping them.
He's making it work somehow. And Copter is one of those enemies that has gained more notoriety over the years because he came back in Donkey Kong Barrel Blast, of all things. Payon brought him back, yeah. They redesigned him a bit, but it was still essentially Copter. Copter was playable in Barrel Blast, or a Copter was. So
I love when companies go back and be like, hey, why create a new thing? Maybe there's somebody that needs a little bit more attention.
Yeah, as much as I adore retros games, especially Tropical Freeze, again, one stickling point is they don't... A sticky point.
Every masterpiece can have a little teeny flaw.
And the biggest flaw is they don't celebrate the characters and history of Donkey Kong Country quite enough. But the gameplay is fucking solid.
Exactly.
And the atmosphere and everything else is off the charts. Okay, so those are the Kremlings of the game. Minus, of course, Baron K. Rollenstein, but we'll save
possibly
discussion
Crosshair. We don't know.
Chaos, who is billed as a Kremling, even if he's not. But we'll save discussion for bosses in the actual discussions of the levels and worlds in the next 2 episodes. So let's talk about the animals who were in the Kremling crew but aren't actually Kremlings, or maybe.
So we're going to talk about Crosshair later.
We'll talk about Crosshair when we get to a certain one. Yes.
Oh, to a level or to a certain character?
Character.
Okay, gotcha.
So let's talk about Sneak, the obvious replacement for Neek. Mm-hmm. Now, Sneak is just a shitty, like, mangy-looking rat.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he looks like Neek looked cute.
Yes.
Sneak
I
looks
felt
like
bad
he's going to
killing
give you the
Neek.
plague.
Sneak I kill with no remorse and sleep like a baby at night.
Sneak's got like almost sweaty looking fur. He's like got a hole in his ear. He's got long.
Let's be real.
jagged
Sneak
teeth.
has HIV.
Oh,
Look at him. He probably like sleeps on a bed of hypodermic needles.
you know, Martin Scarelli, the farmer bro who jacked up the price of the HIV drugs, kind of looks like Sneak. So it's
He was a little
apropos.
sneak, I know that.
So yeah, Sneak is I think the first enemy you encounter in the game. Am I wrong?
That sounds right.
Because Naughty gave way to Neek, who gave way to Sneak. So I think that's I think that's if not, he's one of the first. He's definitely in the first.
They definitely populate the barnyard levels quite a bit.
Yeah, and he's definitely on the docks
mill
as well.
level. Yeah.
I want to talk about Buzz.
Oh,
Buzz
you mean
is one of the
Zinger?
most... No, I mean Buzz.
What happened to the singers?
Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof. Buzz is one of the most iconic enemies coming out of this game. They were going to reappear in Diddy Kong Pilot as the homing variations of Zingers.
That's awesome.
The versions of, I guess, shells from Mario Kart. But, of course, they became Banjo Pilot. Buzz, they are bee-type creatures who might have crocodilian DNA, but they also have cybernetic implants. They have exhaust pipes for, legs, and they have buzzsaws on their back. And they've got teeth. They've got human teeth. These are weird characters.
They have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figure mouths. Where it's open on the side.
That impossible, like, can you do it? I can't do it.
I don't know. Battletoads tried to do it, but very few can
where
do
your
it.
mouth is closed in the middle, but the sides
It's like a Harvey Dent grimace.
Yeah, but on both sides. It's like physically impossible unless you have like a very precise stroke.
I'm trying to do it right
face.
now. Precise stroke.
A very
That's my
precise
favorite throwback minimalist rock band, the Precise Strokes. They're really good.
I wonder if it's a medical term if a stroke leaves your face like this. Oh, he's got the Raphael Playmates action figure.
We got a Donatello. Get Dr. Williams in here. But they should have had a.
Don't open the bubble wrap. Don't open the card stock.
No. That's valuable.
Buzz is weird. I like to think they are crocodilian and actually related to the Kremlings more so
Really?
than Zingers. Yeah.
I feel they're robots.
Well, they're partially robots. They're cybernetic.
They're cyborg.
But
Okay.
yeah, they definitely
But are Zingers a crocodile to you?
They're a part of the Kremling crew, and they're native to Crocodile Isle. Whether they were influenced by the Kremling source is up for debate.
So
but
why can't this be the same thing where they're just hornets or whatever that are part of the Kremling crew?
Well, they are definitely part of the Kremling crew, but they're also the colors of the Kremlings in this game. The same green, the same purple, the same red. So it's always been in my head.
They do have the weird
crocodile
chin
beasts.
and lips that a lot of them do too.
But again, they were all created by the hand of Mark Stevenson. If Mark Stevenson was God, we would all look like diseased Jay Leno nudist. So,
oh, good Lord.
Which, by the way, I want to see fan art of an orange nudist Jay Leno as designed by Mark Stevenson.
In a way, it's almost my contrarianism inside that makes me love these guys because they they're very unpleasant to look at. And I could see why someone who's more into the classic designs would hate these. I totally understand it, but to me, it's the quirkiness that makes them special.
I like that this game just stretches its arms like this. It just gets weird with it. Bristle is a hedgehog. Yeah, he's a hedgehog who looks nothing like Sonic the Hedgehog.
No.
I believe
he looks like an actual hedgehog.
He's the replacement for Spiny, if I'm not mistaken. But he'll also roll at you. Much slower than Sonic, fortunately, but all the same. I don't know if he's supposed to be a slight reference to Sonic the Hedgehog, but he does roll at you. So, of course, the only overt reference to Sonic the Hedgehog in these games are his shoes next to the No Hopers bin.
Oh, yeah.
Of Country 2.
Burn.
Lemguin. Apparently, this is supposed to be a cross between a lemming and a penguin.
Yes, I was about to say that, because they just walk dumbly.
Well, they slide on their bellies, and they'll just slide off the cliff. By the way, lemmings don't actually do that. They were manipulated into committing suicide by a Disney documentarian, and that's where the urban legend comes from.
Is that true?
But, yeah, look it up. It's horrifying.
A documentarian made a bunch of lemmings kill themselves, and now literally since grade school, every kid thinks that that's what they do.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I gotta go. I got a documentary to watch.
Lemguins, they don't look anything like the penguins from Super Mario, that's for sure.
No, they are bug-eyed freaks.
That actually came to prominence 2 months before this in Super Mario 64.
They look like Peter Lorre.
Yeah, they look like again, another Lost character. Yeah. They look like Michael Emerson, Ben from off of Lost.
Yes. They are a person of interest to me.
I do think they look more realistic than the penguins from Mario, though.
Oh, hell yeah. That's a glorified tech demo.
That's just because Rare is always good at the furry shenanigans. These don't actually look too much like real penguins, but they get closer than the Super Mario penguins.
They're not a macaroni penguin, but they're like an elbow macaroni penguin.
Okay. Yeah. Carbine. Now, this is what I wanted to get into. Carbine is an owl with
shoots lava balls.
Cannon, with a cannon that's similar to the one Bazooka carries, but a little bit more portable. Got a laser sight on it, but they also have these sniper glasses, these goggles that they wear. And pretty hardcore. Now, they appear in one stage in the background shooting flaming lava balls at you from these cannons.
Did you say that's an owl?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like before Autumn Heights even.
Yeah, the first owl enemy in the game.
Yeah.
Now, in the Crackshot Croc stage, where you yourself are being hunted from the perspective of whatever's shooting at you,
which is
they're
awesome.
shooting the same lava balls that Carbine shoots at you.
Yeah, it's probably just Carbine.
I've always assumed it's Carbine, but in Nintendo Power, in one of the I think the month before Donkey Kong Country 3 came out, there was a robotic enemy that carried the same cannon.
He looks awesome.
He looks awesome. I believe he was originally going to be what became Carbine, and Carbine was a late replacement for him because couldn't get his animation to work. Or
it is kind of fun to think that guy is the unseen Crosshair, though.
And he totally could be, because there's nothing to invalidate that.
It's like Mr. X. It's like this mystery.
There is one point in Crackshot Croc where you get to take over the gun yourself as Squitter, oddly enough. So I always like to imagine Squitter wearing these awesome Carbine goggles with the laser sights on them, and just like using his spider legs to fire the cannon.
And Qburn has a good point. It is so reminiscent of Bubo from off of Clash of the Titans, the original.
Really?
Yeah, the little golden stop-motion mechanized owl that the main character gets.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I never put that together. I wonder if that was actually a design influence.
I wouldn't put it past him. It's a great old classic
thanks,
movie.
Qburn. Yeah, you're dead on there. Knick-Knack. Kind of a forgettable. Enemy.
Not a big Knick-Knack fan.
But he is a merger of sorts. Fundamentally, he replaces Click Clack. I mean, that's obvious in the name.
Of course.
But he's also kind of a replacement for Flitter in that he's flying.
Yeah.
So, Knick Knack is kind of a twofer there. Swoopy, it's a woodpecker.
Swoopy's awesome.
So yeah, Swoopy, he will swoop down and he will get his long ass beak stuck in one of the redwood trees that are so prevalent in this game, and then you can use him as a platform. He's dangerous, but then once he gets stuck, you can use him as a platform.
Now, are these guys part of the crew in your opinion? All of them?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Look at that face. He is mad.
Yeah, he is definitely. He's got the like long eyelashes or eyebrows that like just out of control kind of.
He's out of control.
He's mad because he can't get a good eyebrow waxing. Not
like Perry and Guyliner over there.
That's right. Minky or Minky Kongs,
my favorite Kong of all time.
Well, we classify them as Kongs because they are monkeys, but they are the first antagonistic primates in the series since Manky Kong.
Yeah.
And they sit in the trees and they throw nuts at you.
I've always thought of them as spider monkeys, but they're definitely not. Those are the ones in Jungle Beat, right?
No. Well, we refer to the ones in Jungle Beat as capuchins.
There we go. That's more accurate. So this guy's sort of just one of those smaller monkeys that, like, clambers around trees and throws stuff at you.
He's about as ugly as Manky Kong, though. Manky was supposed to be relatively ugly.
He looks like a rhesus monkey, kind of.
A little bit, yeah. I'm not quite sure what monkey he's supposed to be, but he's hideous, and I do like that they gave him a similar name to Manky.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean it's a reference to monkey, but Minky, Manky.
They knew what they were doing.
I like. Maybe they knew what they were doing, or maybe it was a happy accident, like Retro calling the pufferfish in Tropical Freeze puffed up when I'm sure they didn't know that was already pre-existing Donkey Kong pufferfish.
You never know.
All right, Nick. Let's get this over with. This is for Karakong out there as well.
This is for you, Karakong.
Ned.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Gleam and Bream. My bad.
Oh, we'll get the Gleam and Bream.
I prepared a whole essay on Bream. Well, just basically back in March of this year, I made an argument for Nid on the forum. I don't know. How much of it do you want me to read?
You can read it all.
All right, here we go. Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. A game that has its detractors for one of its main Kong's supposed hideous design, its decidedly unjungly setting, and its other strange idiosyncratic features. Here at DK Vine, however, most of us recognize this underdog title that was overshadowed by the N64's release as the great game it is. Sure, some might say it's no DKC2 as far as classic music and atmosphere, but it arguably has a better world map, better bosses, a better save system, and even better gameplay than either DKC1 or 2. So why is it that even here, in this bastion of acceptance towards the little guy, does a character in this underrated game continue to go as unnoticed as the game itself does elsewhere? Surely we're better than this. Who do I speak of? And is this just another rant similar to my campaign for recognition of Banjo-Kazooie's Sand Eels 2 years ago that I made my name for with around these parts? Well, yes, it is similar. But the Sand Eels have had their day in the sun thanks to being featured in my comic for the site. You gotta do everything yourself. And this one cast member of the DKU still remains unsung. I speak, of course, about Nid. Yes, Nid. You know the guy. I know what you're thinking. Oh yeah, Nid, that enemy from the level Springin' Spiders in Kremwood Forest in DKC3. Wait, I'm sure we've discussed these little guys before. What's Buzzwick on about? Well, feel free to keep thinking that, but you, my friend, are fucking wrong. You see, there's an error on the site I wish to rectify. The Nids are not enemies. They are, in fact, an animal buddy. Yes, Nid deserves a spot in the animal buddy pantheon right alongside Rambi, Espresso, and that flying squirrel fuck from Jungle Cruise. Why? Because Nids never even attack you. In fact, you can walk headfirst into a Nid and not get damaged. The only thing Nid does, the only thing, is help you. Nids offer a well-needed boost of a jump to one of the starring Kongs. He, or is it she, asks for nothing in return. They lend a helping hand, or rather pincer, in the hopes to be recognized in the annals of gaming as one of Rare's beloved classic animal buddies, or Kong helpers. But instead, Nids get royally shafted and are virtually forgotten. When he is discussed, he's referred to as an enemy. An enemy? That's spitting right in his face. Sure, the above image of him makes him look angry and hostile, as well he should be. I'd be mad too if my acts of valor were utterly erased from history. Is Nid one character who appears multiple times via hologram, or is Nid a drone? I'll leave that for you to argue pettily over like you Nid-ignoring twats always do. The point here is that A, Nid is an animal buddy, not an enemy. B, Nid deserves praise. And C, I'm getting a tattoo of Nid on my lower left calf with below it in calligraphy the words "fuck ignorance, respect the Nid." Sure, the fact that the boss of Krenwood Forest is named Eric, the first part of which is from arachnid, with Nid being the second part, makes Nid seem like a simple offspring or underling of the devious eight-legged boss monster. But this is simply rare wordplay, and there is no connection. Nid and Eric are not allies. Sure, Nids are even listed at the end of the game under the baddies category, but this is obviously the work of some dumb, ugly, drunk British programmer who had been working too many late nights. He obviously meant to have Nid appear under Animal Buddies section while the credits rolled. And finally, let's not forget Squitter. The name makes me want to vomit. Squitter. A spider animal buddy who actually does get respect. Hell, around here he's lauded as one of the best, if not the best animal buddy. I'm sick to death of his oafish grin and poser attempt at hip footwear. Does Nid wear Kanye West sunglasses or sport a Livestrong bracelet? No. The Nid is humble. The Nid follows no trend. So to sum it up, fuck ignorance, respect the Nid. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's certainly a defense of Nid.
But I should mention, since then, I kind of thought about it and changed my mind. He's a Nid.
Yeah. Well, ignorance is kind of in vogue right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing about Nid is, I do think Eric or Arik or Arich or however you want to pronounce that spider boss's name. I like Eric.
Yeah, me too.
The fact that Eric, I think Nid is supposed to be the small version of Eric. And I think Nid also is quite deadly in that he can leap you up into another enemy, be it a Buzz or a
But that's not his fault.
I look at those eyes, man. He knows what he's doing.
Okay.
Those are some red, angry, evil eyes.
I'm undecided on this issue.
All right, well, you can be undecided, but I'm going to come down on the side of hating little fuckers. I'm sorry, Nick. And did you get that tattoo?
I did get the tattoo, which makes the fact that I kind of changed my mind so humiliating.
Where did you get it?
On my lower left calf.
Lower left calf. Nid jumps upwards. So are you suggesting that somebody therefore jump up your butt?
That's a stretch, but I like it. Gleamin' Bream. No, Bounty Bass.
No, Booty Bird.
Booty Bird.
Booty Bird. I mean, there's more evidence for these to be helpful than there is Nid, I would think. Because Booty Bird actually gives you something. Granted, you have to give them a good whack. You have to throw a barrel into them, or maybe throw Kitty or Dixie into them. But they're usually hiding, or almost always hiding an item.
I love Booty Birds.
The cool thing about Booty Bird was, instead of just having Booty Bird fall off the screen, they actually have Booty Bird fly away into the distance.
Oh yeah,
it was just a nice subtle little effect that you don't see much of in these types of games.
You didn't kill it.
Yeah, like I said, I always argue that maybe you don't kill these enemies, you just knock them out. Yeah. Unless you commit accidental genocide like Diddy and Dixie, and then you kill like most of them. Yeah. But Booty Bird just flies away in fright which is cool. I like
Booty
that.
Bird's rad.
Now let's go underwater, and let's start with the underwater equivalent of Booty Bird, Bounty Bass, which essentially works just like Booty Bird, except it's a big fat fish. And there's an equivalent to him called Gleamin' Bream, which kind of replaced the concept of Glimmer's Galleon in this game, where you would have to stab Gleamin' Bream with Engard to illuminate them.
Is a bream a kind of fish?
I don't know. It's a play on bioluminescence, underwater. Granted, I don't think any bioluminescent fish look like this. These look... You know the game Seaman for the Dreamcast?
Yes, I do. Nimoy's finest work.
These look like a little bit like Seaman.
Yeah.
Okay, but they've got too human of a face.
If they were
on
long
a fish.
and I get you. Yeah, it's very. They look like those clouds in old paintings that are like puffing out their cheeks and blowing wind.
They look like Monica after I got her in the Oval Office, man.
That's what I call a Gleamin' Bream.
Oh, man, I was stabbing her, and I was like, I'm in the dark, baby. I'm sorry, I gotta stab you. I just gotta get some lights on in this Oval Office. Boris Yeltsin is calling, and I got to do me some paperwork, and I got to turn the lights on.
Gleamin' Bream.
Gleamin' Bream. Yeah.
Now, my favorite underwater enemy, Coco.
I'm with Coco. Team Coco.
Team Coco.
Clownfish.
Literally.
Yeah.
How creative is that?
They went, well, is it really creative? It's like having a catfish that's a literal cat. Well,
I hadn't seen clownfish be done like this. He looks like a fucking French mime wannabe fish. He's freakish.
Now that the whole clown scare is over and teenagers aren't dressing up in clown masks and hiding in the woods or on the side of streets trying to scare people, now that whole hysteria has died down once we passed Halloween, hopefully Coco will find acceptance in our bodies of water again.
But you could tell it's paint on his face, so these don't look like that. They get a nose, they put it on, they paint their face. They're just posers.
You really don't think they're born that way?
I don't think so. It looks like paint.
Know. I mean, it looks like paint, but...
And the fact that their lips are white, it's very weird.
A little bit, yeah.
They do look vaguely racist if you were to, like, invert the picture.
Yeah, well, that's why you don't invert the picture.
Not in public.
Even if the game is heavily Germanic. Baza, a barracuda, I believe.
Baza Luhrmann, the great director of such films. You wouldn't tell it from his face, but he just loves a fantasy musical.
I can see that. Yeah. So they march, or not march. They swim in a straight line, coming out of holes. So they're more of an obstacle to avoid. They don't bite you, even though they have the hideous barracuda-like mouths.
I like how they have like a second set of front fins in the back. It almost looks like they have 4 little dangly legs.
Yeah, again, big jaws, a design staple, but yeah, I like Baza. One of my favorite underwater enemies in this series.
Cool.
I have to admit,
he's the most barracuda-ish of all of them.
I always think of them when I hear the Heart song. Yeah. So
Bazacuda.
Lurchin. Lurchin is probably, I would say, the most iconic or the second most iconic underwater enemy of this game, just because they had a boss modeled after them. And they're pink, fleshy in the middle, and
like Kiddy Kong.
Spiky on the edge. Yeah, like Kiddy Kong. And perfect antagonist for Engard, because you stab them at the wrong moment, you'll get hurt, but at the right moment and they will be defeated.
Great game design. They do remind me of a Mega Man enemy. I don't know the name, but I know there were balls that would open up and shoot at you from inside, and you have to time it just right.
If they were robots, they would look like a Mega Man enemy. Yeah. You're right on that. What do you think about their designs, though, in general?
I love them. Look at those bloodshot eyes.
You don't think they look like... I mean, they kind of look like angry vaginas. Just a little bit.
Oh, okay. I gotta come clean. I've never seen a vagina.
They look exactly like a lurchin.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for them spikes.
On my first date ever, I'll say, first of all, thank you for not calling the police the whole ride here. And then I'll say, show me your lurchin.
But just make sure you wait, Nick, until they open their shell.
Oh, they have a shell?
Yeah, a spiked shell. That's the way sex works.
I need to get out more.
You really do. Speaking of the human anatomy, little twat. This is what Matt has called the...
Editor's note. Nick Prol has seen a vagina. All right, let's move on.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's all the incest porn you watch, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
Little twat is what Matt Cornah names the things that the boss Barbo shoots out at you. Little mollusk type
I love how
missiles.
that's the official name now.
Well, that's the official DKVI name. Mario Wiki refuses to acknowledge our brilliance.
Oh, for crying! Can someone burn down Mario Wiki to the ground already? This is a call to arms. I will pay you if you burn down Mario Wiki to the ground.
You know, we were just attacked by the Ukraine, by Putin-backed forces in the Ukraine. So I'm not really going to advocate for any acts of terrorism.
Well, I'm putting my foot down on this issue and saying, kill Mario Wiki.
No. Mario Wiki is fine.
I'm kidding.
They just need to start seeing the world.
But the whole DK Vine agenda is Super Mario 64 is a tech demo, Mario Wiki is the devil, and Donkey Kong's the only series that exists. So I have to adhere to those things or I get kicked off the staff.
The Donkey Kong universe.
Oh, okay, good point.
We're very varied in our taste. We like Banjo-Kazooie. We like Conker.
Yeah.
We like Star Fox Adventures.
We switch back and forth.
And Star Fox Command, but not the other Star Fox games. And Grab by the Ghoulies, and It's Mr. Pants, and Viva Pinata, and 2 out of the 3 Connect Sports games.
We like different variety of things. Kind of like how Nibla has 2 different forms.
And Goldilocks and Little Bear, and Ukulele. And Sea of
That
Thieves.
segue failed.
It did. I completely ignored you, Nick. Let's talk about Nibla.
I've never seen an ignored segue.
Nibla is another one that a lot of people have tried to defend, like you did unsuccessfully with Nid, and say they're an animal buddy. Now, I think there's a little bit more evidence to support Nibla, considering he can be a friend in one stage, so long as he stays properly fed.
As long as you call him Nibla and don't use the hard ER.
Right. That's a good point.
He hates that.
Wait, he's a fish, so I don't... Does he hate anything?
He hates kelp.
Well, he hates not eating, I guess. Yeah. He is usually an animal. I guess he's supposed to be a piranha, but kind of like Lockjaw, but I don't know what exactly
he's a
kind
picky
of fish he's supposed
fucker.
to be. Yeah. So he'll get mad if he eats lurchins. He wants to eat cocoa flesh, right?
I thought he gets mad if he just hasn't had anything in a couple seconds.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. You're right. And then he'll attack you if he's not fed with his fellow Kremlin crew marine life.
Yeah.
And the reason some people argue he should be an animal buddy is there's a no animal sign that you can cross that and you'll be safe from him. He'll no longer follow you around.
That does make sense, but I mean, animal buddies shouldn't be hurting you.
That's
he's
the
a
thing.
turncoat.
I think animal buddies are always going to be your friend, and unless they're hypnotized by the Tiki Tak tribe. And I think Nibla, the fact that he'll munch your butt if he's not fed properly, just makes him too unappealing to be an animal buddy. He's part of the Kremlin crew. I'm sorry, guys. Got no animal sign. In another life, maybe he could have been an animal buddy, but he is a filthy enemy, and so he shall remain. Well, Nick, we just discussed every single enemy minus the bosses in Donkey Kong Country 3.
You know, when I first got into this game and loved the enemies, I never thought I'd be able to sit down for multiple hours with a good friend and discuss the intricacies of these fuckers. But I'm glad we did.
Now you know why I haven't talked to Elliot in 10 years.
Oh, yeah, he would be scared of people like us.
So, real quick, before we wrap up this episode and take the calls we have, let's talk about this.
Right.
Let's talk about the team being switched out. Now, a lot of people don't know this, like that the people who made Donkey Kong Country 3 primarily had no part in Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong Country 2.
Correct.
Eveline Fisher, of course, composed about half of the original Donkey Kong Country soundtrack, and she was back. And David Wise did have, I think, input on some tracks on this game, but for the most part, it was.
Did she really do half of the original? I thought it was like every now and then there was a song by her, but not.
Okay, I mean, I don't know the exact breakdown. Robin Beanland did one song, and Chad was very fond of that song and made it well known when he met Robin Beanland. Hi, Chad. Hope you're still out there.
He's passed out by now.
Seriously, I give him shit, but like Robin's actually like a friend of ours.
That's
now.
so
Like,
crazy.
We've like he drove around in his car and went to dinner with him and hung out with him at E3, and I could have stolen his phone, but I didn't.
Let me give you this little stick to pick up all the names you just dropped.
Robin Beanland.
Oh, dropped another. No, that's awesome though.
I'm just friends with all Robins. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, Damian Wayne, and not Carrie Kelly because that's an alternate Earth. I don't care. I don't count alternate Earth Robins. Disgusting. So, was switching out the team ultimately a good thing, or did the DKC3 team fail to live up? Should be pointed out that the DKC3 team mostly went on to make Donkey Kong 64 after this.
Now,
game.
am I wrong to say there's a connection between them and Cameo? Didn't they make that?
Yeah, George Andreas, he was definitely involved, and went on to Cameo after
And
that.
was there something
And
else,
Cameo,
or was that the next thing after 64?
There's a chart. I mean, granted, there's some inbreeding. At a certain point in the Microsoft era, a lot of inbreeding starts happening between the teams. And then you pretty much have the end of the classic Rare structure of the different teams going from project to project. But yeah, the Cameo is a great game. Donkey Kong Country 3 is a great game.
Was this the team's first game, or did they make one before DKC3?
I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you next week.
Oh, we're going to talk about that?
I'll find that chart.
Okay.
I'll find it.
Because didn't they work on like Blast Core or something else? I forget what it was. But I should know this. Course.
I want to say they went straight from DKC3 to Donkey Kong 64. Some team members might have worked on some.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm just wondering before DKC3 if they existed as a.
Well, Blast Core didn't exist before DKC3.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering.
I'll have to look it up.
We'll figure it out. But
DKC3 for DK Vine's purposes, this is the team's coming out party, and for as hard as we are on Donkey Kong 64 anymore, I think we still defend Donkey Kong Country 3 a great deal.
Yes.
And I think, this team is very talented, and I think the quality of games like Cameo speaks to that. But I think this team was always in the shadow of the team that came before.
Undeniably.
The Males brothers, Chris Sutherland, the music of David Wise, even.
And you could even say that, like, my opinions are maybe tainted a bit by that because I have such a love for the underdog sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Donkey Kong Country 2 is considered by many at DK Vine, including Chad and myself, to be the greatest game of all time. And, like, not even like a subjective argument. We will argue you until we're blue in the face that it is the best game of all
think
time.
it is the best made, or the most classic, perfect 2D platformer of all time.
Okay, and I would be happy with just leaving it at that. Like, I'm not going to...
Because it's not going to compete to any other genre. There's no point. It's not. It's
personal preference would say whether it's your favorite game of all time. But as far as platformers go, it's
great though. It's amazing, perfect. And there's
perfection.
Yeah, there's magic in the first two DKC games that, admittedly, isn't there in DKC 3. But that's not a negative because they made up for it with their own weird brand of magic. And even though I love everything that we love stems from the original two DKCs more than this one just always stands out in my mind as the one I think of, the one I want to play, the one I want to think about. It's just so unique.
Yeah. See, here's my thing. Donkey Kong Country 2, perfection in platforming. So how do you possibly follow up on that?
You experiment.
Anything you follow up on it with, if it was the original team, would inevitably be a disappointment because they had everything they had to say about the Donkey Kong Country series. They nailed it on their second attempt. They went on.
I argue gameplay-wise,
to
3
Adventure
improved
3.
upon 2, though, because the open world, a lot of the level mechanics, sure, the coins are different, and there's things you could complain about, but it's more fun for me to play than DKC2 at times.
Well, here's why Donkey Kong Country 3 is amazing. Is it as perfect as Donkey Kong Country
No.
2? I would argue no. But it had the template of Donkey Kong Country 2 and all the work that the original team put into it to build off of. So they knew basically how to make a great game. The template was right in front of them. They could then ask themselves, as you said, how can we experiment with this and add something, I'm loath to use the word, fresh.
Yes. No, exactly.
And what they did was, I think where Donkey Kong Country 3 really improves on Donkey Kong Country 2, and it's amazing they were able to improve on it at all, is making the map screen interactive, part of the exploration and the immersive atmosphere.
Exploration is what, and I'm sure you'll get to it in a separate episode, but the exploration is, and the mystery and the weirdness and the nostalgia and the nature, we've covered all that so far, and we'll go more into detail, I'm sure. But it is kind of thinking about what you just said. I always think of Rare as the guys who improve upon something that already exists and make the best form of it. Like Super Mario 64, they did Banjo-Kazooie and perfected it. Super Mario World, they made DKC, perfected it. But it's interesting that even within Rare, they were doing that to themselves. So it's like they made DKC 2, perfected it. So really, at the end of the day, we didn't really need DKC 3, but somebody still took what was in DKC 2 and made this really crazy romp out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I you look at the map screens, for example, of the first 2 Donkey Kong Country games. They're static rendered images with the characters.
No
moving
animation or
them.
anything.
These map screens had animation. You could explore. You could go off the beaten path. You could drive vehicles
And that
around.
music.
The music, yes. So I'm going to be getting into the music here. Just 1 second. But I would argue that Donkey Kong Country 3, it does lack some of the assuredness and confidence of Country 2. And I would argue that a lot of the platforming challenges aren't as precise and perfect as Country 2. But it makes up for its deficiencies in pure platform perfection in how interesting it gets, how much it experiments, and how it improves in some areas like, again, the RPG elements, the adventure elements on the map screen, on how immersive it can get in some areas. And it stretches the boundaries in a lot of ways. And it's not afraid to get weird with the format and with the
use
characters and with
comparison apropos to us, DKC2 is like seeing the Beatles. There's nothing better. You'd be a fool to say so. And it's the most perfect form of pop music you'll ever see. But DKC3 is like seeing Zappa, because maybe there's flaws or things that didn't make sense to you, but damn if it wasn't adventurous and didn't push the format already established. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And I'll let you have your Zappa reference there.
And also, back to the cliche Star Wars reference, nothing beats Empire. You'd be dumb to say that, but damn, if Return of the Jedi ain't my favorite. Same thing here with DKC3.
I love Return of the Jedi. I'm tired of people slagging off Return of the Jedi because it's not Empire. Return of the Jedi, okay, it's got Ewoks. I like Ewoks. They're fine. They're fine. They're savage little creatures who tried to eat Han Solo.
Every Star Wars movie, and this is something not enough people say, but there's like a second half fatigue I get in every Star Wars movie where even though it's great, I'm sort of checking my watch in those movies. And that movie has the least of that, even though there's freaking teddy bears everywhere.
Why do you think Carrie Fisher did all that cocaine?
Good point. She had to stay
She
awake.
had to stay awake.
But look at Jabba's palace. That's basically the DKC3 enemy list.
Yes.
They're freaks.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd bring up Jabba's Palace. Jabba's Palace is Donkey Kong Country 3. It's one of the reasons Return of the Jedi is so interesting to me because it gets weird.
Yeah.
It's like the cantina from the first one on steroids.
Except the movie starts with
Donkey
that.
Kong Country 3.
There's no holding your hand till we get to the weird part. See, for Empire, I'm always just waiting for the bounty hunter scene, and it's 3 seconds long. In Return of the Jedi, the first third of the movie is a freak show, and it's awesome.
You really like freak shows.
Hell yeah.
So Donkey Kong Country 3.
You ever seen Todd Browning's Freaks? Yeah, great film.
One of us.
Gum.
You're like Swanky Kong. You're just hanging out in the sideshow. So yeah, Donkey Kong Country 3 is basically Jabba the Hutt's sex palace. And I think it's important to note that the team, they made their best Donkey Kong game when they had that template to work off of. It's when they tried to take the format to 3D. Infamously, they tried to turn Donkey Kong Country into a 3D format and couldn't get it to work. So they just kind of, in a bit of desperation, essentially copied Banjo-Kazooie a little bit. And Donkey Kong 64 kind of failed.
That's the thing that's really interesting to me. The same exact team can make my favorite of the DKC3 trilogy and then my least favorite N64 Rare game. Like, that's crazy. And I'm not saying they should be condemned for making DK64.
No, they rebounded with Cameo.
I think...
Donkey Kong 64 is just ideas never coming together.
It's that same experimentation that was in 3. It just didn't click.
I think you can see the flop sweat in Donkey Kong 64, where Donkey Kong Country 3, it's got enough. It's using Donkey Kong Country 2 as a crutch to complete the marathon.
Sure.
You know, but I love Donkey Kong Country 3. It's my second favorite of the original trilogy, awesome. And I like it better than the original game. I love the original game, but Country 3, man, it's really close to Country 2. We used to say on classic DK Vine that Donkey Kong Country 2. It was our favorite, but Donkey Kong Country 3 is probably the better game. I wouldn't agree with that.
I actually flip that personally. I would say 2 is the better game, but although even I just said 3 improved on gameplay, but as far as a fully cohesive package, I mean, you can start 2 and actually know the story, whereas in 3, like 3 has flaws, 2 is perfect, but 3 I prefer. Flaws and all.
2 still holds up as my favorite now. 3, you know, I can't say
it's a tie for me,
better,
probably. It's a tie.
It's better in some areas, and I think Country 2 is just better in areas that keeps it more timeless, where Country 3, it's better, but not in ways that keep you coming back for more necessarily. But it's still a great game.
Absolutely.
Real quick, we're going to get to the calls here, and we're going to be hearing a lot of this music over the next 2 episodes, but I have to address Eveline Fisher's soundtrack. This is one area that fans are divided upon, and it's one area where I've unfortunately seen a prevailing opinion starting to form over the years that this soundtrack is somehow deficient or not as good as the stuff David Wise did.
Just like the designs, I see where they're coming from, but I don't agree. I think her soundtrack is more sparse and minimal. It's not...
It's definitely more new age.
You can't walk around humming the tunes quite as much. And in the tunes you can hum, I will say she does quite a bit of borrowing of popular music more blatantly than...
So did David
Wise.
But
more blatantly than David Wise, I would say. I mean...
David Wise is blatant if you know where you're looking.
Sure.
But
like Mill Fever is just the old song Fever. And that's it. There's nothing really changed.
Yeah, and then the factory song is Kashmir.
Yeah, and then like the Snow song sounds like Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap or whatever.
Oh, I have to catch this. But okay.
I made a thread about it comparing all the different songs, but I still love it, especially the ambient songs.
She does it in kind of a new agey ambiance.
Yes.
And she was responsible for the new agey atmospheric tracks on a lot of for Donkey Kong Country for a lot of the time. David Wise really embraced more of a rock jazz kind of feeling in Country 2. And of course, you know, Wise is very adaptable. Not as adaptable as Robin Beanland, my good friend Robin Beanland, who I've ridden in his car with and had beer with and broke bread
to make
with.
a Roxy Music analogy, David Wise is Brian Ferry and Evelyn Fisher's Brian Eno.
I'll accept that. I like that. So I think since David Wise did the Game Boy Advance soundtrack for Country 3, the fan base has really been split, and it's kind of turned upon Evelyn's soundtrack. But I would say it's great, and if nothing else, the Northern Hemisphere song, it's up there in the top 5 most memorable Donkey Kong Country songs. It's up there, and
it's so there's no like main melody to that song. It's like 4 different melodies, and they're so sparse and so spaced out. It's like I listen to that song waiting for the next cue to come in. And I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful.
So we're going to be getting into her music over the next 2 episodes and listening to it in the background. But I just had the
and maybe this is silly, but I love how the first game she gets to do the soundtrack for is the first game with a female protagonist. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. This is a girl power game. I think it's a shame that she's I believe retired now, and she's not in the industry anymore, because the whole Donkey Kong composer lineup. Wise, Kirkhope, Beanland.
They're amazing. They should start a supergroup.
Evelyn Fisher is right up there with them, and she deserves to have the credit she's
She's like the Wendy Carlos of video games. That is I believe she did the soundtrack for like Clockwork Orange and a bunch of class.
Oh,
and she's,
okay. I was thinking Wendy O.
Yeah, Wendy O is from the Plasmatics. That's different.
Yes, and I love the Koopalines. I love that they're all named after musicians. I'm surprised there's not a Zappa there. Anyway, so yeah, that's more about Evelyn Fisher's wonderful soundtrack in the coming 2 episodes. Well, Nick, here we are again at the end of another episode of a 3+ hour episode. Holy shit, and the spotlight is only halfway.
It's such a mixture of shame over wasted time and utter joy over enjoyment. So I'll land on the enjoyment side.
Look, there's only going to be one Donkey Kong Country 3 spotlight.
Let's do it.
Might as well
all out.
Savor it, yeah. All right, so we got some calls to take. Not as many this week as last week, but still calls to take. If there's any questions or comments, we'll address them afterwards. So let's just kick back and hear what they have to say.
What is up, Hyle? And whoever's the guest today, maybe it's Chad, maybe it's Nick, maybe it's Matt, maybe it's that guy. I don't know who he is, but that's he hears these sounds, right? You know what that is? That's a Wii U Pro controller, and I'm playing Donkey Kong Country 3 on it. Yeah. Right. It's the best game ever made. It's the best of the DKCs, I mean. So, the classics. It's my opinion, of course, and I know I'm objectively right, and it's the best Donkey Kong Country game. But, with that said, I just want to let you guys know that this is my favorite DKC game out of the original series. And we'll say this. DKC 3, why is it that? It's called Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. But then in the commercials from the 90s, they're all about Diddy Kong being a badass and stuff, which is not even like his actual character. Like, you know the commercial I'm talking about, right? Right. Oh, and I'm also live playing a DKC level right here. So you guys get to... So I'm Ellie the Elephant right now, and I'm on this. I forgot what level. I haven't played this game in a long time. Okay, that's the thing. So I don't know what I'm doing. See, I'm having trouble on Bopping Barrel Brawl. I hate this level. It is the worst. So I'm trying to play it right now. Okay. Oh, that's what you do. I forgot about this. See, I haven't played this DKC games in a long time, so really enjoying it. But yeah. So I'm Ellie the Elephant, and I'm just whooping around, doing my thing. Just I'm kind of stuck here. Yeah, this is the most fun thing in the world. I'm sorry. Well, it's one of the most fun games ever. I've stuck on this particular level, but it's good. So let's see what's gonna happen. So, boom, yeah. See, the thing about this game, right? It just feels so nice after DKC 2 was like the darkest one in the series. I don't like dark. I like things being happy and sunshine. Makes me feel good inside. If you get what I mean, of course. It's a good game. That's all I have to say. Sorry. This is kind of a nonsense call. Love you guys. Whoop. So I guess I wanted to call.
A nonsense call from Mamechi? Why? I never.
That's new.
Love you too, Mamechi. Thank you for the call. And yeah, you pretty much addressed, well, before you just started playing Donkey Kong Country 3 while your phone was on, you pretty much just addressed what we had discussed earlier, how, yeah, Nintendo kind of hid that Dixie was the protagonist of this game, despite Rare really, trying to make it a big deal. And they tried to hide behind Kiddy Kong, and which is stupid because Kiddy Kong's not going to appeal to like hardcore like dudes anyway. Like it's a big.
It was
baby.
misguided.
Come on. Yeah, Kiddy's not a badass. He's an idiot. Idiot kid. Pink ball of flesh. And yeah, I would hope if Dixie ever got another chance to star in a Donkey Kong game or her own game, Nintendo would be a little bit more forward thinking now. But takes a long time for Nintendo, be it Nintendo of Japan or Nintendo of America, to be dragged into the 20th.
The pendulum
century,
swings, though. They might even be like so forward thinking they'd hide Kitty.
Well, they have been hiding Kitty for
good point.
19 years now, since Donkey Kong Land 3. Yeah. All right, let's take another call.
Hello, Hyle, and I'm assuming Nick. It's Banjo-Kazooie 2000 here, calling right before the DKC3 Spotlight Part 2 episode of the Kongversation. On first note, happy belated birthday, Hyle. I forgot to send that message to you last week because, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just very forgetful. But besides that, I think this week's topic is about characters, so I'm going to list a few of my favorites and maybe why. I like all of the Brothers Bear equally. I can't really choose which one is best. I'm also not really authorized to officially ask the question. So I really like all of them put together because they all help you out equally. I think is it Benny or Bjorn that allows you access to one of the Banana Bird caves in Razor Ridge? I'm not sure. But besides that, who's my favorite character? Perry the Parallel Bird. I don't adore him as much as Scraps, but I do like him as an animal buddy. It's interesting. It's an interesting, like, game mechanic sort of thing. Like, having one, NPC hover above you and collect items. That's not really something I've ever really, I can word. I've never really seen in a 2D, platformer. So.
Oh, well, guess it cut off there. Thank you for the call, Banjo-Kazooie, Tooie, Grunny's Revenge,
Cell phone adventures,
Banjo Pilot, mobile games, nuts and bolts, Sonic and Sega Adventures All-Star Racing with Banjo-Kazooie, ukulele, Retro Forest 64-ish. So anyway, you brought up characters. We brought up characters. It is interesting to me. We say, to a certain extent, Donkey Kong Country 3 rested on the laurels of Country 2, expanded upon in a lot of great ways. But one of the reasons it's a great game is had that as a template. But I find it fascinating how we as a fan base adore so many characters in Donkey Kong Country 3, maybe even more so than characters from Country 2. We got the Brothers Bear, granted, I mean, that's 13 of them right there, but the amount of love that Perry gets, or some of the other weirdos in this game, I think it speaks a lot to that the team's instincts were more dialed into the fan base than probably even they realized, or we realized at the time.
Exactly.
All right. Hold on. I've got to sneeze. Hold on.
Here we go.
Izuka. All right, thank you. Let's take another call.
Hey, you nerds. This is Sabretooth 1 billion from the forum.
Hey,
Long-time
you loser.
listener, first-time inquisitor. Donkey Kong Country 3 is a great game. It's my favorite of the original trilogy. It's just very creative, very well-made, very risk-taking. But there's one thing that bugs me. And the villain, or at least the villain that you think is the villain, spoilers, sorry, is named Chaos with a K. Now, years later, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong are in Skylanders, which also happens to have a villain named Chaos with a K. Now, does it bother you guys that there are technically now 2 DK villains with pretty much the exact same name? Do you think maybe there's something behind that? Do you think they could be the same person? I don't know. This keeps me up at night. The demons won't rest.
Well, thank you for the call, Sabretooth. First time caller.
I love Sabretooth.
Yeah.
One of my favorite forum members.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite Power Rangers morphs.
And Logan's brother.
Sabretooth Tiger! That was racist, was it? Was it racist? Yeah, it was racist. Yeah, it was racist in the show, whatever.
She's dead, don't worry about it.
Racist. She is. That's true. And the Black Ranger is missing his middle finger.
Whoa. And some other Power Ranger got arrested for stabbing a guy with a katana.
Yeah, that was like in season 20. Nobody knows that. I mean, yeah. I've talked about this on my Bachelor Party episode, how I fell into a wiki hole for Power Rangers, and I know a lot of stuff.
I think we discussed Guy last episode.
Yes. Or we discuss it off air, but yeah, I couldn't get that far into the wiki hole. Like as soon as we passed season 7 or something, I was like, all right, this is becoming too much for me. But yeah, it bothers me. It bothers me that there is another Chaos with identical spelling, and I think you don't have to put Skylanders Chaos in all caps. So that's my only saving grace, because I think Chaos, we'll discuss this when we actually discuss Chaos, probably in part 4. Chaos must stand for something because it's in all caps. But yeah, it bugs me that Skylanders Chaos exists and that it's the more well-known Chaos and will be more well-known as associated with Donkey Kong by virtue of Donkey Kong being a Skylander than the actual Donkey Kong villain named Chaos, who Donkey Kong was, spoilers, inside of the whole time.
Could be like Kremling Annihilator of Steel.
Could
or
be.
Science.
Maybe we should ask listeners to call in. I'll wait next week to make this call because that'll be good for part 4. But I want people at home to be thinking about what Chaos could stand for. Maybe we should ask people from Rare too. Anyway, so yeah, it bothers me, and there's no connection between the two. I think it's just something you have to kind of rationalize as, well, there can be 2 people in the same universe named Fred, so why not Chaos? Fortunately, it happens. There's more than one Tiny. There's Tiny the Golfer from Mario Golf Game Boy Color, and of course Tiny Kong, among other.
The fact that there are 2 Chaoses kind of throws it all into chaos, so it's fitting.
Yeah. The fact that I can't sleep at night because I'm worried people are going to confuse the bald-headed Skylander villain with the robotic Donkey Kong enemy that's actually Donkey and Diddy being brainwashed and having their brain power use the power of the cybernetic CPU. Yeah,
it's kind of like the hives you get over what you worry about me.
Yes, yeah. I am going to be dead by 40 at this rate because of this goddamn website. Yeah. All right, one last call. Let's take it.
Greetings, Kongversation. I hope I'm reaching Hyle and the last gentleman that was featured on the Kongversation Donkey Kong Country 3 Spotlight episode, because can't remember his name, but holy smokes does his voice sound like the froth on top of a root beer float. Anyway, I'm not sure why I'm addressing him, because this call is specifically for Hyle.
Oh, good.
Hyle, you're reminiscing of your childhood friend Elliot. Screams my personal story of my childhood friend, Robert. It stinks because I don't know if you're still in contact with Elliot. I took it that you weren't. But I too am no longer in contact with my friend Robert from 1995. But Robert was my exposure to all things Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario related. I didn't have a gaming console until 1998. My first one was the Nintendo 64. And Robert was this rich kid from Barre, Massachusetts that had every console and every new game. It was crazy. And so I remember in 1996, it must have been right around when Donkey Kong Country 3 came out, but I just remember that scenery and the scenery that you guys were talking of, that camp, whatever, with the family members that you hated. Like, I totally remember going to summer camp with Robert, and we would just pretend that we were in Donkey Kong Country 3 and run away from all of the horrible baddies. And he always wanted to be Dixie, which was really interesting because then when Titanic came out the next year, he wanted to be Rose and he wanted me to be Jack. As far as I know, Robert is still a heterosexual, but kudos to him for breaking the gender roles. I'm not really sure what the point of this call was other than to validate you, Hyle, for having these, I don't know, thinking about somebody that you haven't thought about or that you haven't been in speaking terms with for theoretically a long time. I mean, I haven't spoken to Robert since 2000, but I still think about him, and his influence on my life was extremely crucial to developing my brain and leading me to call a podcast about Donkey Kong. So, anyway, I just wanted to give you some validation, Hyle. You're not alone. We all have that Elliot, whether we want to admit it or not. And then usually it is us that becomes our own version of Hyle. So, you guys have a sparkling day. I hope the podcast is going well. And until the next time.
Well, thank you for the call. I don't believe you actually gave your name, so I'm just going to refer to you as Robert's friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call, Robert's friend. Yeah, it's great to hear, similar childhood stories compared, especially as it relates to these games. Nostalgia gets a bad rap from things like South Park, but I think it also kind of grounds us a bit and keeps, I don't know, happy memories a part of our present existence. I don't think there's anything wrong with nostalgia so long as
I think it's more like
become a slave to it.
Be nostalgia for the things that were already made and go revisit them. Don't force nostalgia into new creations just to pander and make money is my stance. But hey, froth on top of a root beer float, huh?
That describes you to a T, or to a root beer ice cream beverage.
Getting frothy in here.
Hey, baby. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, God.
No. Hey,
Robert's friend, give me a call, huh?
Yeah, well...
I'll be Dixie.
Now, it makes me wonder, what will I do the day Elliot calls into the DK Vine hotline?
Oh, Lord, that would be...
1281410
that would be amazing.
Yeah, he needs to resurface. He has no idea he's been referenced so much on a Donkey
He's
Kong
transitioned
podcast.
since then into a dolphin.
Isn't that a South Park gag too?
I think it might have been accidentally. My bad.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I'm done with the South Park references, Nick.
Yeah,
I don't care if you are the frothy mixture of lube and fecal matter or whatever he said. Yeah, so thank you for the call, and just one other question. If you can get a hold of Robert, I have a question for him. Can you draw me like one of your French girls?
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.
Something wild is coming. Something you wouldn't expect. It's Donkey Kong Country 3 starring Kiddy Kong, uglier bosses, incredible levels, and graphics you won't believe. Donkey Kong Country 3 on Super NES.
There's something you don't see every day.